I'm still excited to see.
All right, share your
What you
screen.
think?
Let's do.
There we go. Okay, perfect. Now we can see it.
Boom. Can you see me?
Yes, I see it perfectly.
Ooh, wonderful. Okay. I figured we could do this one real quick, just
Yeah,
because
let's do it.
we've already kind of gone over this one quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
just offline. So with this, so the don't get mad, get rad, EAted.
I love it.
Yeah, right.
Great title.
Thanks. So I kind of broke it down. I kind of have in the description there. I'm using mill and radiation to bleed out my opponents while stealing their best creatures to outvalue and outpace them on the battlefield. So the
Okay.
deck is a little slower paced. It is kind of here just to mill, and I want
Mm-hmm.
to abuse my commander's ability to tap, steal a creature either from my opponent's or from my own graveyard, and use them to the fullest extent on my field. And so I have things that'll uh, double their ETB triggers if that's something they have, or obviously mill. I'm not really here to like mill out, so to speak. I'm more
Mm-hmm.
using mill as just like a value engine. Um,
Yeah, get stuff into Graves so that you can get it back out.
yeah, I do have some alternate win cards in here as well that we'll go over
Okay.
shortly, but that's not really the focus of the deck. It's just more like if it happens, it happens, but that's not really what the deck's really trying to do.
Okay.
Um, so starting off, so just so you know, the commander is the Master Transcendent. Whenever he enters the battlefield, target player gets 2 rad counters. So I can put
Okay.
that on myself or another player. From my play testing, I usually just put it on myself when he first comes out. And
Okay.
then his second ability is I can tap him, put target creature card in a graveyard that was milled this turn onto the battlefield under my control. It becomes a green mutant it becomes a green mutant with base power and toughness 3/3, and it
Okay.
loses its other colors and creature types.
Okay.
So when I steal the creatures, I'm really looking for things that are just have good abilities, like
Mm-hmm.
or keywords or evasion,
Yeah.
because I'm not really going to steal anything that's going to be really big
Yeah.
or anything like that. So with
So
that, go ahead.
the interesting things to note on this, and that I kind of wanted to point out and make sure that we like kind of talked about, and this is almost just as much for me, is just to point out that the creature that he brings back has to be milled this turn.
Yes.
And so it that doesn't necessarily mean that it can only be your turn. It can be milled on your opponent's turn and then you can grab it
Yes.
because it's a tap ability. So that's cool. It comes out as base power 3/3, but if it has an ability that adds counters to it or something like that, it can come out stronger than that. And so we'll kind of see some of those as well. I think that's smart to do the rad counters on yourself early just to kind of get it started, because it's an in phase, or because it's a uh, it's a draw phase kind of thing. Whenever you do the red counters, it's possible that he has to sit there the whole time, untouched. But I
Yeah.
mean, he's a decent blocker. 4 is still a decent booty.
He's got
So
a decent booty, and he's not really going to be attacking too much. So I won't really win through commander damage or anything. But I have some things, like I said, I'm here to abuse the ability.
yeah,
So I'm going to skip the alt wins for now. We'll come back to them in a second.
okay,
So first I have ET doublers. So enter the battlefield is the acronym for ETB. Um, so I have Panharmonicon and Virtue of Knowledge. Panharmonicon doubles if an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent I control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So anything that does trigger when it enters will double. If I have a creature that says it gives it counters when a creature enters, it's going to give it double that counters.
got
Um, so that's really nice. And then Virtue of Knowledge is kind of twofold. It's an adventure card, and its adventure states I can copy a target activated or triggered ability I control, and I can choose new targets for the copy. So for 1 in a blue, I can actually copy my commander's ability and grab 2 creatures that were milled this turn instead of just 1. So that's just kind of a nice bonus. And then it has the same thing as Panharmonicon, except it just says if a permanent entering the battlefield causes the triggered ability of a permanent. So Virtue of Knowledge covers any permanent, so be it a land, an enchantment, or whatever, where Panharmonicon is just an artifact or a creature. But both are basically doing the same thing. I'm just trying to double up on those triggers and kind of get some value out of it. And I only have 2, but still it's better than 1.
Yeah, and Panharmonicon is a really good staple card that's just good.
Yes and no. So I've actually had this Virtue of Knowledge card for a while, and I was talking to someone at one of our game stores who we played with, and he plays Panharmonicon a lot in like all of his decks. And I told him, I was like, honestly, I don't have a lot of my decks, looking through them, they don't really have a ton of ETB triggers. A lot of them are like passive, or they're just like big beaters or something. Or if they do have a trigger, it's like, to me, it's cool. It's not really the focus of the deck. So this is kind of the first one that'll be here. And just so you're aware, this is also the Fallout art, because this card comes in the Liberty Prime, the energy precon, which it's in that one too. But I tried to grab as many Fallout art cards that I can and put in here, because I'm still trying to fall under a Fallout flavor and theme. Which is why Virtue of Knowledge actually works really well, because the master's like super smart. So anyway, I'm going to then cover this. So Plan B. So I'm glad you brought up the whole mill thing with the commander, because he can only grab a creature if it's tapped or if it's milled that turn. So that can be kind of limiting. So I have 2 cards that I call Plan B. So they're basically doing what my commander does, just different ways they're doing it. So I have the Scarab God, which is he has the whole, at the beginning of the upkeep, each opponent loses X life, and I scry X, where X the number of zombies I control. And then its other ability is I can pay 2 and Dimir, which is blue and black. I can exile a creature card from a graveyard. Does not have to be my graveyard, just from a graveyard. And then I create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. So it's another way for me to pay for. So I just pay 4 mana, and I could just steal a creature from a graveyard without worrying about the whole mill factor. It just has to be in the graveyard. So it's just another way to snag a creature. And then the Scarab God has this last line is, if he dies, I return it to my hand at the beginning of the next end step. So he kind of has some recursion. But he's just there as like a Plan B. Because I have a theory that once my board is a kind of established and I have a mill engine set up, my theory is I actually won't be using a ton of mana all the time. So because I'll be using my tap abilities more so than anything else, and using just what's on the field. And so I feel like around turn 6 or 7, I may end up not having to cast as much, or I can hold mana back. And so using that for the Scarab God, I think will be interesting. That's my theory. I don't know if it's going to work out in real life, but that's how I view it, is like once the engine starts rolling, I'm not going to have to cast as much.
That makes sense. I could see that happening.
Yeah. And then Virtue of Persistence. It's another adventure card. I also have this under removal because it just has 1 and a black, and target creature gets -3/-3 until the end of the turn, and I gain 2 life. So just quick removal. That's easy removal early game. And then it has, at the beginning of my upkeep, I just put a target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under my control. And that's perfect. And it's an enchantment. So it does cost a lot at 7 mana, but
Yeah.
Uh,
But that's kind of a problem enchantment where like people are going to target it.
yeah, and it's only on my upkeep, so it's still only once per turn. But both those cards are they're just labeled Plan B because it's like if
Yeah.
my commander can't get it, hopefully one of these guys can get them. Or if I
Yeah.
saw something that did get milled, but I picked something else, I can, you know,
Yeah.
come back later for it. I have a very, very tiny proliferate package, which I still deem kind of important because once I can kind of get rad counters out, I have a pretty decent sized radiation section on here. And if I can
Hmm.
just keep radiation, I'm bleeding my opponents with radiation, and the proliferate is just going to keep them up.
Hmm.
So atomize is just a removal spell. It's also a flavor card from the precon,
That's
and
super cool.
it targets a non-land permanent, so it covers a lot.
Mhm.
And then you
I
proliferate.
like Atomize a lot better than Putrefy, even though it's
Yes,
more expensive. I think it covers a lot more.
it covers a lot more, honestly. So people will probably say, um, Assassin's Trophy is just a green and a
Yes.
black, and it is the better card. I'll say that it is the better card, but I'm focusing on some flavor here, so Atomize kind of took the slot. But I am aware that Assassin's Trophy is a better card. I
Yes.
just chose this one instead.
Well, and it's advancing your game plan in an additional way.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a sub point on this is I think you're double correct on this because the more rad counters somebody has, the more likely they are to keep a rad counter after doing their mills. Because if they mill a land, they keep the rad and they don't take the damage. And
Yes.
so that kind of increases your odds of them having rad so that you don't have to like reapply it and you can kind of proliferate on one or two rads instead of just proliferating on 10 rads or something like that.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, we just in the games that we've played together, we've seen rad close out probably 3 games. You know what I mean? Like
And if it
where it
didn't
was just
close it
like,
out, it did damage. Like
yeah,
for
constant and just throughout the entire game and
yeah,
just yeah,
I think
yeah,
every game I've played that had radiation did at least 10 damage. At least 10 damage.
yeah.
If it was just coming from a single source, which is pretty crazy. And then and that's
Hmm.
just accounting for like one player. If you count like the whole board, it's dealing like 15, 20 damage to like the whole
Yeah,
board.
I agree.
So but I think it's also a slow play that people don't really, it's almost like they don't know they're bleeding until they get down to like 10
Yes.
life. And then they're like, oh, I got 5 rad counters. Like,
Yeah,
that's not good.
I
And
agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think a lot of decks don't really mind having they don't mind milling just a little bit, you know what I mean? Like they don't
mhm.
really care that bad because they don't mind seeing more of their deck. And some of them have a little bit of recursion or oh, if this is in my grave then I get a small benefit or something like that. And so like some decks don't really mind milling, and then once they like I think the damage just starts to add up and then they kind of go, oh shit, hang on, this is a problem.
Yeah, it really does. And the other proliferates are almost pure proliferation. So I have Inexorable Tide, which is just to cast a spell you proliferate. Um, just decent. And then
Yeah.
I have a Karn's Bastion, so I added that into my land where you pay for tap proliferate. So like I said, I'm kind of leaning
Okay.
back into that. If I have the mana, I can proliferate, add a few more. If not, it's just
Yeah,
there.
still a utility land.
It's utility. And then Vexing
That's kind of
Radgol.
cool.
Um, Vexing Radgol will it does proliferate if they already have red counters, but it's great
Mhm.
because if they don't, it just gives them two.
Yeah.
So that's really nice, but it's still under proliferate. The sauce, well, not the sauce, but this is like my, uh, I called it untap, but this is me abusing my commander, like abusing, like call social services.
Yeah.
So I'm actually gonna skip Intruder Alarm because that's the best card. I'm gonna skip it for a second.
Nice.
So Merc Fiend Liege is uh, it has this little bonus where it says it gives other green creatures +1, gives other blue creatures +1, but it's this bottom text I really care about, which is all green and/or blue creatures you control during each other player's untap step. Um, So you untap. So it just untaps during their untap step. It's a Seedborn Muse, basically, for green and blue on my side. And my commander is a green and blue. So I can mill, like give someone rad counters. They mill. I'm going to take one of their creatures, no matter what it is. Because if this is out, it's going to untap on the next player's turn. I'm going to take one of their stuff. And so every turn I'm stealing something. Seedborn Muse, same thing. Untap all permanents, which is nicer because it's untaps lands too. But
and artifacts and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then I have Tyvor, Jubilant Brawler. He is actually kind of neat because he actually kind of gives my commander haste. So he says I can activate abilities of creatures I control as though those creatures had haste. So I can do my tap ability as soon as my commander comes out, and he's 3 mana, so he falls right under the curve. So I can play Tyvar, and then next turn play my commander, and then he's out. And then he has the +1 where I can just untap up to 1 target creature. So for this one, I'll more than likely just use him to either bring a creature from my graveyard back, untap him, and then grab another creature. Or I can just untap him just to have that 2/4 body up. And then even better, he has a -2, which actually mills, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and then but his is I can return a creature with mana value 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. I don't have a ton of those, but he mills. So
yeah. Real quick question on Mark Fiend Liege. If something is blue and green, do they get +2 or just +1?
They get +2.
Oh, perfect. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really nice. And then this was like my secret, like not secret, but I realized my commander is an artifact creature, and Unwinding Clock says I untap all artifacts I control during each other player's untap step. So I was
that's funny.
I was like, oh, yeah. So I threw that in here because that's hilarious. I was looking for as many untap my commander during other players' untap steps as possible, while trying
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have caught that. That's really funny.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, he's an artifact creature, so he'll untap, which is super cool. And then the creme de la creme is Intruder Alarm. This card is nuts in this deck. So it says creatures don't untap during controller's untap steps. But whenever a creature enters the battlefield, untap all creatures. So what happens is, in the ideal world, say somebody mills 10 cards and 8 of them are creatures. I can tap my commander, steal a creature. That creature enters the battlefield. I untap my commander because a creature entered the battlefield. I can now tap again and take another creature. And I can take all 8 creatures with Intruder Alarm.
Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it. Okay. I was like, well, in a way, you could almost hold somebody hostage where if you have it untapped, then if they need to untap to be able to like do something, like if they have mana dorks or something like that, or if they have a tap ability, then like you almost can like wait until they say, okay, I end my turn, and be like, okay, on your end step, I'm going to go ahead and tap and take something out of your grave. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
There's a little bit of like, you can almost hold them hostage, but that's really funny with Intruder Alarm. I didn't think about that with like grabbing 8 of them.
So it's down here. We'll get there in a second, but there's some mill cards that I can like mill 20 cards from all my opponents. And so like on my turn, I could just, mill 60 cards throughout the table.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 and just like take them all.
Just go crazy.
So this is like the best card in the deck, in my opinion.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I'm glad you explained that, because that's really funny.
Yeah,
that is disgusting.
When I first read this card, I was like, I don't understand. And then Bowser even played it in one of his decks, and I was like he was getting some value out of it, but I was like, it's just awkward. This is weird. But now that I have it in my deck, I'm like, this card's good. I'm like,
This is the best card in my deck.
I'm gonna skip this for a second because we're gonna talk about this.
Okay.
I put draw. I feel like every deck should have some just raw draw power. So I have a Garruk's pack leader that says whenever another creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under my control, I can draw a card.
Oh, hey, that's gonna be all of them with
That's all of
Master.
them, correct. So he's just a draw engine, just value for
Yeah.
whenever I do pull stuff. Guardian Project, I feel like everyone's heard of, but
Yeah.
it's another ETB. And so with Panharmonicon or Virtue of Knowledge, like Guardian Project's gonna draw me 2 cards.
Yeah,
Because,
that's really good.
yeah. Mariposa Military Base has I can pay 5, tap it, draw a card, and it costs 1 less to activate for each rad counter I have, which I'll probably have some rad counters. So this is
Mhm.
it's technically draw. It's
Yeah.
also
Well,
under
and even if you have 3 rad counters and you're paying 2 mana to draw a card, like that's pretty good cost. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
that's pretty.
It's
You
a
know what I mean?
clue.
Like that's
If
good.
it's two, if
Yeah.
it's 2 mana, that's a clue. Like
Yeah.
we're good.
That's at cost. That's good.
Yep. Mirelurk Queen, I think you've heard of because
Yeah.
obviously you have a lot of these cards you have because
Yeah.
you run the Mothman.
Hmm.
But Mirelurk Queen is the whole. If I put whenever I mill 1 or more non-land cards, I draw a card. So she's just good draw power. I put Solomon here because I substituted a lot of my sorceries of like Cultivate, Farseek,
Hmm.
and even Mana Rocks. I actually decided to do creatures for like Mana Dorks and things like that. So Solemn Simulacrum is simply ramp as well, but he does have that when he dies, I draw a card.
Yeah.
So he is technically draw. And
Yeah.
then
He's kind of high costed, but we can talk about that here in a minute.
yeah, and then Struggle for Project Purity this is a great card. So it you have this card as well, or you
Yeah.
should. I
Hmm.
doubt I'll ever use the Enclave ever, but
Hmm.
who knows? Maybe I'll feel a little risque. But yeah, basically the whole beginning of your upkeep, each opponent draws a card, and then you draw a card for each card drawn this way. That's 4 cards.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
we're in.
That's pretty. I feel like that's really. It's kind of insane draw power, and I feel like it's pretty bananas. Um, yeah, I feel like that's pretty bananas, and even honestly, even the Enclave isn't bad. Like,
No.
especially like early game, like just to be like, hey, don't attack me. If you can tell that your hand's gonna be slow or something, like that's pretty good discouragement.
Yep.
Um,
It because I considered some of that in this deck where it's like I considered putting in like the propaganda, like pay 2 mana for each
yes,
creature. I
yeah,
considered some of that, but I'm like, I really don't think I'll be that big of a target because it's like I said, I plan on this being kind of a slower build. Like I kind of want to be sitting in like 3rd, maybe even 4th place when it comes to like threat level and just like
yeah,
kind of just biding my time. Like, oh, like you mill 2 cards. Oh, you mill 2 cards. Oh, just let me I'm gonna
yeah,
snag like that thing. I'm gonna blow that up.
yeah.
Before
Kind
they
of waiting for one of your big cards.
a big card or even like the goal is to kind of stay under the radar to where it is that everyone's down to 10 life and they're like, oh, I have 8 rad counters. I'm about to
Yeah,
die, and I'm like, that's
yeah,
crazy. Um,
yeah. I like it. I think that's a fine plan, and I think that's an interesting power level to be at.
yeah. And then I took your advice where you were like, hey, you need more mill. So I have 18
Hmm.
cards that mill. That's almost a fifth of the
This
deck.
is a good mill package,
Yeah,
baby.
dude. So we got Aftermath Analysis. He just ETBs and mills.
Hmm.
And then he also has the great effect of paying 3 and a green, and you can return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped.
Amazing.
Amazing. Incredible.
Yeah, just incredible.
Alter the Brood. Whenever permanent enters the battlefield, each opponent puts the top card of his or library into his or graveyard. So when the master steals a creature, brings it over, everybody else mills. Like, it's
Yeah,
just slow
I
mill,
think
but
I think that's actually pretty underrated. Well, no, it's not because it's $15. Like that's pretty like I was gonna say, oh, that's an underrated card. No, it isn't. It's expensive. Like it's good for a reason. Like and at 1 mana, like you can do that, play another card, and like or just do that and then do your land drop, and like you're instantly doing like there you go. There's one for everybody. Cool. I'm online. You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of why I like that one and like you've got another one down there that I can see, but like some of the other ones that are like you're guaranteed to get 1 mil per turn, and some and like that's kind of all you need is 1 mil off of everybody.
And
So
there's yeah,
I like it.
and we'll get to them too, but there are like it does have some of those semi-infinites where it's like
Hmm.
because I have a couple creatures that are like, hey, when a non-land permanent enters the graveyard, create a creature.
Yep.
Well, that's a permanent. Oh, mill another one, and so it'll go
Yep.
until they hit a land. Um,
Yep.
but it says
Exactly.
each opponent puts a top card, so this could like go for a little bit if I had one of those going.
Yeah.
And then I have a Breach the Multiverse, which this is kind of a splashier card. Everyone
Mhm.
mills 10, and then you pull a creature from all graveyards and put them onto your side of the field. I've used this in Sauron.
Yeah.
It's just a splashy, kind of a big push play.
Yeah.
Um, so
But
this
that's
is
kind of a little bit what you're trying to do with Master. That kind of has Master's effect in it. You know what I
it
mean?
really does. This is just like a bigger like, hey, hit it.
Yeah.
Everybody mill 10. Like
And that's high cost, but you're right. I mean that has potential to end the game right there.
it can end the game, or in Sauron when I've played it, it has like it's either brought me back to the brink or it has solidified my position to where
Hmm.
it's like if they don't draw a board wipe, they're in trouble.
Yep. Oh, that's true. I guess everything doesn't necessarily have haste, so
Yeah. Um
that's a good point.
this is another tap mill card, add a colorless. This is just a mana dork also. And he's mill.
Yeah,
Maddening Cacophony is that this card too, I think. Each opponent
incredible.
mills 8 cards. If it was kicked, each opponent mills half their library. So
Yeah.
imagine this with that intruder alarm.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
hot damn. Like,
Yeah.
oh my
Well, and
damn.
I love that card. So one number one, I have fallen in love with kicker effects because I'm like, if I get it early game, sure, 2 mana, I'm in. But it's like if I get that mid to late game where I can get the bigger effect, I'm like, let's do it because I'm in like half their library. Like that's that's huge. Like that is crazy. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of that card.
Yeah. Um, Mariposa has the it can give me 2 rad counters, so I just threw it under mill as well.
Yeah,
Memory Erosion. Bowser played this on me once. I love this
I
card.
love this card.
Yeah, because he played it against me, and I milled. I was milling myself. I was casting spells. Like every spell you cast, that player puts mills 2 cards. Like
Mm,
okay,
Taxman.
Taxman.
Yeah,
Uh,
I love it.
Mesmeric Orb is this will get blown up real quick. People hate this card.
I
Because
want that. I want it so bad.
dude. So basically, it's like for every land or creature they attacked with, when they untap, that's like 8 cards. It's so
Yeah,
stupid. It's so dumb.
yeah. It's ridiculous. That's so good though. And for two, like holy
Oh
shit.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's so good.
it's nutty. Milliken's another tap
I
Millicard,
love
add
Milligan.
colorless. Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
This was one that whenever we were building Mothman, you and Bowser were kind of like, "Hey, I don't think this is like, I don't really think this does what you want it to do," and we kind of like talked our way out of it. And then whenever I went back to Mothman and tried to like lower the curve a little bit, I actually went back to Milliken and Ghoul Caller's Bell because they were so low cost that it was like, "Hey, this is just these are just so easy to do, and it's a mana dork." I was like, "Yeah, I can't tap it turn one," but I was like it's a rock and it mills. I was like, that does everything I needed to do. Like that is, yeah, I just feel like it's perfect.
yeah. Mind Crank is the other like
Yep,
um
that's it. That's the
pretty.
win con.
It's a win con. Yeah. Uh, whenever they lose life, you put that many cards on the top of their library into their graveyard. So good.
Hmm.
Raul,
I
you can
like it.
you can tap him. He mills a card. I'll talk about his other ability in a second. Rune Crab, Landfall, more mill.
Yep,
Sidisi
great.
enters the battlefield or attacks. You mill 3. and then I didn't realize this part. I thought it was for every creature card it put in the graveyard you create a 2/2. Um, it is per mill effect.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so whenever you mill 3 cards, even if they mill 3 creatures, you just get that 1/2/2 black zombie
Oh,
creature
okay.
token. But like I said, you can, if that Alter the Brood is on the field, when
Hmm.
that 2/2 comes in, they will all mill again, and then you could
Yes.
possibly create another 2/2.
Yeah.
So she's still good. She's still
I think
good.
she's really good.
But
And I like that it's not just an ETB that you could double, because you do have a way to double her ETB,
yes,
but you also have a way to keep using her. It's like she can keep attacking and get more
yes,
out of that. So I really like that.
yep. Skull Prophet. It's another mana dork, but also has the mill effect as well.
Hmm.
CERN
It's
Comrade
good.
the Grim technically has a mill effect. I doubt I'll ever really use it because he's up there. We'll go back to the alt win cons in a second, but he
Yeah, we're
does
gonna
have,
go back to Sir Conrad because he's the best card in the deck.
yeah. Tato Farmer. You can tap, or he has landfall when he enters. I get 2 rad counters, which to me is mill, so he's in here. Of
Yeah,
course, the backup commander, the Wise Mothman.
incredible.
Same thing. Whenever he's giving out rad counters, that's mill. And
Yep.
Tyvar, we've already talked about, he has mill. So protection, I only have 5 protection cards. Um, so this is just to keep, basically just to keep my commander and my board state alive. So I have Glenn Alondra Archmage.
Hmm.
She's a walking counter negate, just a counter spell
Hmm.
with persist. So I get 2 tries with her under normal circumstances.
Hmm.
Heroic Interventions, just a staple green, and it's the Fallout art, so that's a win.
Yep. Absolutely.
Lightning Greaves as well, also Fallout art, and I will not really be equipping my commander or really having to target or do anything with him. So Lightning Greaves is literally like the perfect equipment to just shroud him, give him haste, we're good.
Yep.
Nesting Grounds, actually this is a misclick. I thought this was Diamond City that moves a shield counter.
Oh yeah.
So I have Diamond City. I'm actually gonna put it in here.
Yeah.
But that's where I'd put a shield counter on my commander just as another
Yes.
protection thing.
The other cool part about Diamond City is that you can proliferate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is,
I just put Diamond City in my Mothman deck for that exact reason.
yeah. And then Swan Song. This is a deep cut, but Swan Song, so this is a counter spell, but it only targets an enchantment, instant, or a sorcery spell. But in Fallout 4, there's a behemoth super mutant called Swan. And
Oh,
so,
that's cute.
yeah, he's a menace to society. But I was like, oh, Swan Song's perfect. Like, that's a deep cut for
Yeah.
people who knew Fallout. But I was like, I got to put it in. So I threw it in here.
Yeah. That's good.
And it's protection, you know.
Yeah, it's fantastic. That's a great stable 1
Um,
mana. You
yeah.
need it.
Radiation. So this is like my radiation package. I really wanted a focus on radiation, or at least a sub theme to it.
Mhm.
Vorinclex. We'll get there in a second. This is actually also proliferate technically. Anywho, so all of these creatures at some point or another give rad counters either to me or to my opponents. And they're all creature cards except for Vault 12, which is an enchantment. But they all are giving rad counters. That's how my deck functions. That's the theme. It's Fallout. They all do it, which is why they're here. And then Vorinclex, he doesn't give rad counters, but every time I give a rad counter, they get 2 of those. So
yeah.
I threw him in here as well. But really, he probably falls better under like the proliferate package.
Yeah.
But it's like he doesn't function by himself without either one of them, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But I think he's necessary. And
Yeah.
then we have Ramp.
One small comment on that section. The first 2 in that section, being
Bloatfly
Bloatfly, Feral Ghoul, those things, those two love coming back underneath Master. Um, those things are just absolutely bananas with Master.
So explain to me. So Feral Ghoul, if another creature I control dies, I can put a +1/+1 counter on Feral Ghoul. And then when
Yep.
it dies, each opponent gets a number of rad counters equal to its power. So Feral Ghoul, I
So
could.
at minimum, so if he comes back underneath Master, he's going to be at 3 instead of at 2. So if he dies immediately, then you are going to. So if they do have removal for Master, you bring back Feral Ghoul, and everybody gets 3 rad no matter what. Because he just gets so big that he just dies, and then things are just he can just nuke the board with just an ass load of
Interesting.
like rad.
I think I read them with as sometimes I do this a lot in Magic. Sometimes I read a card and it doesn't like click everything. So I thought it was they get uh however many +1 counters he has is how many
It's his
rad counters.
power.
It's his power. So yeah, I see that
Mhm.
now. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
That's very
But
good.
he does get the +1/+1. So if he's sitting there and you are like reviving something else and dying, or if your board gets wiped or whatever, he's gonna get massive and do a ton of damage on his way out.
Yeah. Because I know the Bloatfly Swarm is so good because he has the whole
Yeah.
like I can bring him back as a 3/3, but then he
Yep.
enters with 5 +1/+1 counters.
Yep. I pulled that off in one of our games,
Yes, but
and I didn't even have Master as the commander.
and then I didn't realize this, but if I have the double the ETB thing, he'll come back with 10.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And then yeah, so that's great. Um and then the glowing one, whenever a player mills an all land, I get life. So I have a little bit of like life gain.
Yeah.
Not I wouldn't really consider it like its own category, but having just
Yeah.
like something to kind of do it is nice. The Rad Roach is just basically kind of the same thing. I can bring him back as a
Yeah.
three
He's
three.
got recursion. Yeah.
He's got
Well, he has
recursion.
his own recursion too.
He does, but if I bring him back as a 3/3, they'll get that much more rad
Yeah.
counters.
True.
Same with the Mirelurk Queen. You know, she's doing her thing.
Mhm.
The Nightkin Ambusher is kind of nice because when he enters, I can give a player 4 rad counters, but then he can't be blocked
Mhm.
if they have a rad counter. So he's kind of
Yeah,
an
that's
easy way
really
to
cool.
get in and get damage. And then the Screeching Scorch Beast is another kind of like Sidisi, but better
Mhm.
because his is whenever one or more non-land cards are milled, I create that many 2/2 black
Yeah.
zombie mutants. So his is the whole if they mill 3 creatures, I get 3 bats.
Mhm. Yeah, that is really cool.
But he's also
Um,
6 mana, which is why
yeah,
he's
I was gonna say he's kind of high cost, but I mean he's flying and Minache, so that's like, I mean that's decent. That's a good attacker.
yeah,
Um,
and he's from
and
Fallout. So,
yeah, and he's from Fallout, and I feel like that kind of rounds out your. I feel like that kind of rounds out your zombie package. You do have like a little mini zombie engine
a
in
little
here
bit.
as well that
A little
kind of
bit.
gives like a little bit of a kind of a go wide strategy as kind of a hidden strategy.
Yeah. Um so I played the precon and I actually used uh the master as the commander, but it was still just the
Mhm.
precon. But I
Yeah,
actually drew the wise Mothman in my opening hand,
yeah,
and he straight up like stole the game. And
yeah,
by stealing the game, I mean he took a lot of. I didn't use my commander at all. I didn't use the master with the precon. The wise Mothman just like once he was out, dude was cooking. Just
hmm,
like, but it was interesting because he got really big as he does. He always gets
yeah.
really big. But when he's not the commander, I realized there wasn't as much heat on him. He was just
Oh,
a.
that's interesting.
It was really interesting because he was like an 18/18 flyer,
Yeah,
but and like he was a problem. He's a threat,
yeah. But
but
because he's not doing commander damage, they didn't target him.
they didn't target him immediately. So he actually stayed out a little bit longer than I thought he would. And
Yeah.
Bowser pointed out, he's like, it's because it's not commander damage that he's like, he's chilling. He did
Interesting.
eventually, he got up to like 30, and then someone was
Yeah.
like, yeah, get rid of that. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you got it.
Yeah. You're correct.
Yeah. So, but it was really interesting that
Hmm.
when he wasn't the commander, it's like, oh, he kind of sits out there a little longer.
Yeah.
And then he's busy just giving out rad counters, buffing up not just him, but everybody else. So it was really
Yeah.
good.
That's
And
cool. Well, and your deck will love having the ability to it will love having the ability to give those +1/+1s. Like you're not centered around it like my build is, but it will love having the ability to go, "Oh, fantastic. Give me, like it's just fun and it's good.
yeah,
It'll be good."
yeah. And then I have this enchantment saga. Um, it is 6 mana, but again, I'm kind of falling back to that. I think I'm gonna have mana to cast these things if it doesn't get
Yeah.
milled. Um, and its chapters are just like, each player gets 3 rad counters, which is nice. Chapter 2 is here's that zombie thing again. I create
Mm,
X 2/2 black zombie mutant creatures, where X is the total number of rad counters among players. So
mm.
it has potential to be go kind of sort of wide. And then it has the put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature I control that's a zombie or a mutant. And because the master makes everything mutants,
Oh yeah.
it just will buff them up a little bit.
Yeah, that's cool. And the biomancer will turn everything to mutants too.
Yep, we'll get to him last. Uh,
Okay.
and then just ramp. Again, most of these are mana dorks, but I have kind of the base package. So I have Arcane Signet. I made Birds of Paradise. I threw him in here because
Yeah, I think that's great.
because I can either drop him as a 1-drop, or if I need him as a just an early mill and I just need something, because he's also a flyer. He can come out as a 3/3 flyer and
Yeah.
still a mana dork.
Yep.
Crucible of Worlds, obviously it's the Fallout art, but
Fantastic.
yeah. So when I do mill those lands, I have access to them. I could just replay them, which is so
Yeah.
nice.
I think Crucible of Worlds is I think that is dumb good. I think there is a reason that is $30.
Well,
Like,
it's
and with
usually
the Fallout art, that is so good.
I think the Fallout art's 30. I think normally it's 20, but
Oh,
if I were to
oh
upgrade the
no.
land base in this to have like fetch lands, you can abuse Crucible of Worlds. So you
Yeah,
can like, oh, pay 1, go search for your mountain forest. Okay, next turn, using Crucible of Worlds, I'm gonna replay my fetch land, pay 1 again, search again, and like you can just like use that fetch land to
yeah,
just cruise through. Um, so just to make that a point, I have not touched the land base here really.
yeah.
I put in Karn's Bastion and I'm putting in Diamond City, and that's it. Uh, like most of the time with this kind of upgrade, I usually don't touch lands.
Yeah,
Not until like I get like some wild ass paycheck or something.
yeah, yeah.
uh,
I'm with you.
yep. Same with the range assistant. We already went over him. Everflowing Chalice. I fought so hard for you to have this card into your deck.
I ended up putting it back in.
I fought so hard because
Yeah,
the
because
whole
proliferate
because
are just so good.
it's so good with the proliferate, and like minimum you pay 2. It's a mind stone at the very
Yep.
minimum, so it's not really hurting anything.
Yeah.
But dude, if you can start proliferating, this can get busted real fast.
Yep.
So I fought so hard for you and yours, and I was like,
Yeah.
it was an auto include in this one. I was like, it's in.
Yeah. Even if you just have a little proliferate package, I think it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I ended up because I was trying so hard not to like do just the artifacts in my deck, and then like because Bowser was like trying to kind of build around Moldrotha, and then like I realized I didn't actually have that, and so I was like, oh, hang on a second. I was like, I've gotta change some stuff real quick, and so I like went back to like doing like regular ramp, and I was like, okay, actually, I kind of like having a little bit of a mix here, because I was like, regular ramp is a little bit more immune to destruction, but there's so many artifacts that I have anyway that have like mill on them. So I was like, I think I need a little bit of a mixture of both. And so anyway, I was like, yeah, I need that. And it's just so good with proliferate that I was like, I have to. So
Yeah, I think if you're gonna add any mana rock, that was the one to put in.
yeah, I agree.
Um, Llanowar Elves is another just mana
It's just
dork. We were talking about Milligan, Skull Prophet, obviously Soul Ring. I also fought hard for Tato Farmer.
I love him.
I know you love him. You almost cut
He's
him, but I was like,
I
no.
did.
I
I
was
did.
like, he's so good. Like he's so good.
Mhm. Well, and Bowser really sold me on him because he works with some of the other things like Crucible of Worlds. Like because you can potentially get 2 lands in a turn because he's not doing your land drop for you. And so if you have like Runamap Excavator or something like that, you can potentially get 2 or 3 lands in a turn based on what you're doing. And so yeah,
Yeah.
Bowser kind of sold me on him, and
Well,
I love him. I think he's hilarious.
yeah, and it's great too because with my untap effects, that means if they do end
Oh
up
yeah,
milling lands, I can potentially get up to 3 lands by the time it gets back to my turn, which is
yeah, that's a great point.
yeah, that's nuts. And then Solemn, when he ETBs, I can search for a land card, and if I have a double
Yeah,
ETB trigger out, I get 2. Uh,
yeah,
so yeah. Um, I have a very tiny recursion package in here.
hmm
Um, this is for obviously because we're in mill and our commander specifically likes milling the turn of. I actually found it would behoove me not to include some things that can pull back some stuff that I like. Hey, I actually kind of need that, and I just
yeah,
couldn't get it at the time. So Bowser sold me on Archaeomancer because
yep.
when he enters the battlefield, I can return an instant or sorcery card from my graveyard to my hand.
Yeah,
So, uh,
that's good for the
yeah,
stuff that you do, Mel.
yeah, and I don't have a ton of sorceries and instances in this deck, but the ones that I do have are going to be kind of valuable. And if I can double
Yeah,
his ETB trigger, I can get 2.
yeah,
So,
I have that in Stella. It's yeah,
yeah,
he's good or she's good, whatever.
Eternal Witness is arguably a commander staple,
Yeah,
but she is return target card, so I can get anything, uh,
yeah,
which is land, enchantment, whatever. So if I end up milling one of my alternate win conditions, I can just grab it with
mm,
her.
yeah, or just keep firing off, freaking Breach the Multiverse or something like that.
Correct.
Oh
Uh,
no, you guys worked really hard to get rid of my freaking intruder alarm. Guess what's back?
guess what's back,
Yeah,
baby? Mortuary Mire came in the deck, but when you play it, I can put a creature card from the graveyard on top of my library, so I can either most of the time I'll just go to my hand, um,
yeah,
and then Raoul Troublemaker or Troubleshooter. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So Mortuary Mire, I can also set up to self mill. So if there's a
yep,
creature I do need to just use my commander to get out, I can kind of set myself up if the cards are
yeah.
right.
That's a great point.
Raoul Troubleshooter, I said I'd come back to. So he cares about the mill, but I can cast a spell from among the cards in the graveyard that were milled this turn. So if I do end up milling one of my artifacts or something that turn, I
Mm,
can cast it without having to like bring it back to my hand.
yeah,
Uh,
that's cool.
so he's kind of a nice backup just in case.
Yeah, I have him in Mothman as well because I feel like he still serves a purpose, and I like him. I think he's good.
Yeah, and he's still just a generic mill engine, and he has a 1/4 booty. Like hell
Yeah,
yeah.
good blocker.
And then of course we just have removal. So Alpha Deathclaw, Menace Trample. When he enters the battlefield, he destroys a target permanent, so you can hit lands with him.
That's kind
And
of cool.
then I can pay 7 for Monstrosity.
And then he gets massive.
Yeah, you can add 4+1/+1 counters to him, and then he'll do it again, uh,
Yeah,
which is nice. We already talked about Atomize, just removal. Casualties of War came in the deck. There are arguably better removal spells than this, but I just
Hmm.
I really really like the art and its
Yeah,
Fallout.
I
Um,
agree.
so it just like, and it says choose one or more. So
Yeah, so you could choose everything.
yeah, and it has like the tagline in the flavor text. So I was like, it
Yeah,
stays. Like I don't make the rules. Like
yeah, exactly.
nuclear fallout is the one board wipe I have. Um,
Hmm.
I'm usually a
And it's
huge.
perfect.
It's perfect, but I usually I run at least 2 board wipes in a deck. This is my first deck. This is the only one, unless someone convinces me otherwise. But this
Hmm.
is like the perfect board wipe though, because it gets around indestructible, it gets around hexproof and shroud, and it gives
Yep.
rad counters.
Yeah.
I forgot to put that under radiation. We'll put that under radiation. So it is literally like the perfect one. Um, so this is a card I'm torn on. The Prime Mirelurk Queen. It is Fallout art, and it looks really really
Mhm.
cool.
It is very cool.
It has flash, so I can cast it from my hand whenever if it's in my hand, or I can just bring it back with the master or from the graveyard. I'm sorry, but it has whenever you cast a spell, I can choose one of these. I can return a target spell I don't control to its owner's hand, or I can return a target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Um, so it's a removal when I'm casting stuff, so it
Mhm.
can kind of clear the board a little
Yeah.
bit, but it's also like, man, it doesn't really have an ETB trigger, so I'm not really
Yeah.
abusing
I wish
that.
it was an ETB.
And so that's a card I would consider cutting on this because at
Okay.
first, so it does have a tiny infinite with Soul Ring, where I
Okay.
can like clear the board if I have this card out in Soul Ring. So what you do is you tap Soul Ring for its colorless mana, and um, you cast a spell, hopefully having 1 mana left over or whatever. So basically, it's you cast Soul Ring, tap it for 2. Um,
Oh, I see.
yeah,
Okay.
you see the loop, and you can just kind of
Yeah.
bounce back and forth. It's a very minute, tiny little like clear the board kind of thing,
Hmm.
but I don't really consider that as a really good reason. I would much rather put something else in this deck.
Yeah.
I think, and so the more I've looked at it, I'm like, I don't. I love the art. I think it's great,
Yeah.
but I don't think I'm getting as much value out of it because even like Ravenous Chupacabra just has when it enters the battlefield, I destroy target creature,
Yeah.
and I can
And
double.
it's 100 points cheaper.
It's 100 points cheaper. Uh, if I have a double ETB, I can get rid of 2 things, and with the master, he'll come back as a 3/3 instead of a 2/2.
Yep.
So automatically, I think that's a better card. Um,
Yeah.
and then so the Primarler Queen's kind of up for the chopping block, and
Hmm.
then this is really interesting. So going through all, let me go to the alt win conditions. One sec.
Okay.
So the alt win conditions, I have Blood Chief Ascension, which
Yep.
is
Insane.
insane. So it pairs really well with Mind Crank because
Uh,
it just loops. Mind Crank is also up here as the alt win.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, Blood Chief. If a card is put into an opponent's graveyard, if it has those 3 quest counters on it, we're in. And lose
And you
2 life.
proliferate.
Yeah. And I proliferate, so I can get it pretty easily, but I'm not really worried. It'll probably happen
Yeah.
pretty
It'll
fast.
happen immediately.
And then it's also life gain too. Um,
Hmm.
so every time you've looked at this deck, every goddamn time, you're like, cut Eternal
I
Scourge.
don't. Yep.
You're like, cut
I
it.
don't.
And I'm like,
So wait.
no.
Yeah, I don't like Scourge, Food Chain, and Chupacabra. Those are the three that I've been like the most on the fence about.
Yeah.
Everything else has made perfect sense to me.
So let me explain Eternal
All right, I'm
Scourge
ready.
and Food Chain
Hit me.
because these come in.
I get the infinite. I just don't think it's good.
So when building this deck, it's very Fallout themed, and with
Yes.
the master, um, I like the idea of players dying by radiation.
Yep.
And I understand the whole. It's not like this isn't the win condition I'm going for at all.
Yeah.
But if it ever presented itself, I can do it. And it's the
Yes.
only infinite that I'm aware of that I've researched that I can do infinite radiation to somebody, and I will either
Yeah.
mill them out or it'll just burn them out, which I think is very on flavor. The Eternal Scourge is the only. There's another creature that has a similar ability that I can have in here as well, where you can cast him from exile, but the Eternal Scourge just looks like he would belong in Fallout. The other one's a Griffin.
Yeah.
And so, but he's colorless. He's a horror. If he gets milled, great.
Yeah.
At the very minimum, food chain. At the very minimum, food chain has given me some mana that I can usually. I can remove a creature like my opponent controls. And so it's just extra mana for casting some bigger spells if I need it, and it's sacrificing usually my opponent's creatures.
Yeah.
But with the two combined, you just create infinite colorless mana, or not colorless, colored mana. You just loop them until you have 1 billion, and then you cast your commander over and over again. Give everybody 2 rad counters over and over again. So you're sacrificing it with food chain, bringing it back, and just looping it over and over again.
So Eternal Scourge you can cast from exile. If he's in the graveyard, you have to bring him out with something else, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But he also wind up rabbits, right? Where is that what that bottom part says?
Do what?
He also wind up rabbits where he dodges stuff.
Kinda. He'll become the target of a spell or ability, and then you just exile him. So he does kind of wind up rabbit, so he will get exiled.
You just pay the 3 and bring him back.
Yeah, you pay 3, bring him back.
Okay. So once he's in the graveyard, then he's easy to get out theoretically with Commander, with Master, but you kind of want him in your hand or exiled.
Yeah, basically. But he's 1 in the 99. So, and it's the only infinite radiation. So I get why he probably doesn't fit the main theme, but that's why he's in here.
Yeah. I get it.
And then with him, there's this mythos of Brokos, which is my tutor, which I can actually get I can get the combo pieces I need, which is, so it's a sorcery, which is the only downside to this. So if I mill this, I'm kind of SOL until I get one of my recursion pieces.
One of your grabbers.
But it says if I use Dimir to also cast the spell, I can search my library for a card, put it into my graveyard, and then shuffle it. And then I return 2 permanent cards from my graveyard to my hand.
That's pretty cool.
I can get Food Chain and Eternal Scourge, put them in the graveyard, and then grab them.
That's cool.
Or if I already have a combo piece out, like Mind Crank, I can just grab,
grab Sir Conrad or something.
Sir Conrad or Blood Chief Ascension and get them. So it's a tutor for the combo pieces, but it's the only real tutor I have. But worst case, even if I don't have the Dimir, which would be weird, I can still just return 2 permanent cards in the graveyard to my hand.
Yeah, I think that's still good.
So it's still recursion.
Yeah, it's a little overcosted just for that, but I think that's still. I think it's almost like a kicker cost. You know what I mean? Like
the kicker
if
cost
you're able
is
to do this, you get a lot more value out of it.
Yeah, you get a Foolish Burial out of it. But I think for 4 mana, getting 2 permanent cards from your graveyard, permanent cards, not just creatures, I think is.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's pretty good.
You might be able to grab like a utility land or one of your artifacts or something like that.
Usually,
that's a great point.
It'd be an enchantment usually, or like Panharmonicon or something. Just and then obviously certain Conrad the Grim you've talked about with so whenever a creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere, or a creature leaves the graveyard, he deals 1 damage. So Yeah, him with Mind Crank. Um, I mean, he can
He's
be out
bananas.
and somebody like Bajuka Bogs, like so somebody
Yep.
Bajuka Bogs me. I'm like, okay, well, you're gonna take, you
Yep.
know, everyone's gonna take this much.
Yeah. I freaking love Sir Conrad. Like honestly, I kind of like I've been toying with the idea of building like a mono black deck, and I kind of want it to be Sir Conrad.
That'd be
Like
interesting. Yeah,
he's just so freaking cool, and like he wouldn't be that different from Mothman, which is the only problem. But like I don't know, I just think he's so cool.
yeah.
Um,
But I do like this deck that I have six alternate. There's six cards in this alternate
yeah,
win spot, so I'm like, it has
yeah,
flexibility to like, kind of. I don't want to say win out of nowhere, but like I can get some
yeah.
pieces going that'll like bleed them out, which is kind of cool.
Well, and I feel like, and the cool part is that your normal game plan of rad counters plus Blood Chief Ascension can win you the game.
Yes.
Rad counters plus basically any of those other cards can win you the game.
Yep.
Like they all advance the game state. You know what I mean?
Yes. They all advance the game state, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So even with
And they're not like useless without the other combo piece. That's what I like.
even with Eternal Scourge, like he's still advancing the game state. Even if he gets dumped in the graveyard, I have recursion to pull him out. So it's like
Yeah.
I'm getting my pieces out with the mill. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Exactly.
nice. So the last thing I wanted to chat about, which I thought was really, really interesting. So all the tags I have on here. So I have alternate win cons, ETB doublers, Plan B, proliferate, untap, draw, mill, protection and radiation, and ramp, and recursion,
It's your boy.
and removal.
Yep.
The one card that did not fit any of those categories was Master Biomancer, and I thought that
Yep.
was very interesting.
Yeah.
But I also couldn't think of a good reason not to cut him.
Yeah.
Because he was literally there as simply buffing the creatures that I'm bringing in. Which I thought, so he almost fell under like with the Garuk pack leader where I'm drawing a card, but Master Biomancer is just making them bigger. So instead of getting a 3/3, say he's out and I just hard cast him, they're 5/5s.
Yep.
But if I have him out with as my, if I pulled him with my commander, they're all coming in as 6/6s, which is nothing to sneeze at. So he's really interesting. The fact that he really didn't fall under any of those other categories, but
Yeah.
I think he can still play a pretty crucial role. So right now I have him under as value.
Yeah.
Value is
He's
usually my
almost-
catch-all, but I try to be
Yeah.
not. I try not to use this, use that tag because I
It's
really
like a
wanted to.
big-
A big catch-all. I really want something else, but he literally is just there to make things bigger.
Yeah. So okay, so number one, I know I suggested him. However, I will propose two things. Okay, so number one, each other creature you control enters the battlefield with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it equal to Master Biomancer's power and is a mutant. So he automatically throws in 2 +1/+1 counters on everything just hardcast. Okay.
Yep.
So not to mention if you get him out with Master, then he's adding 3 to everything with just as a flat +3.
Correct.
Which to me, so here's how I would almost describe him. I think he is a win harder card. If you have a board and you get him out, he is going to push even harder. If you get him out and he's your only thing, he's not really going to do that much.
Yeah.
He doesn't really like, he works really well with Master, but like he kind of wants you to already have 3 other things out.
Yeah.
So I have 2 suggestions.
Okay.
And they address that exact problem. Number 1, for Mirelurk Queen, I recommend the swap to Undead Alchemist.
So, if a zombie would deal combat damage to a player, instead that player mills that many cards. And then whenever a creature card is put into an opponent's graveyard from the library, exile that card and create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Interesting. Okay.
So this rounds out your zombie package. It synergizes with Sir Conrad because of the exiling.
Uh-huh.
And it synergizes with all your other zombie token creators like Sidisi, like Locust God, like all those other ones. And this helps you go wide faster with somebody like Master Biomancer.
That's true. That's true, yeah. Yeah, I could cut that. I could cut
So
that.
he's kind of an attacker, but he's a mill package thing. So he's losing a slot in control, but he adds to mill, he adds to go wide, he adds to a lot of that stuff. And that builds your
It's interesting for sure. Yeah, I also realized with Master Biomancer and the baby boy, he'll double the amount of counters put on creatures if Vorinclex is out. So they can come in as with +6, basically. So they'll come in as 9/9s, that's really nothing to sneeze at. Okay. So you pay X and 2 black. Each player mills X cards for each creature card put into a graveyard. This way you create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. Okay, so this is more into the mill and the zombie package. So I had the same thought about Solemn. I had the same thought when I first read him. I have played with him in several decks, and he has paid off. If I do cut Solemn, I want another ramp. I need another ramp because that's probably like, it's maybe irrational, but this is the first deck I have that it doesn't have any cultivate or any real mana rocks for as like a ramp package that I'm used to playing personally. So if I were to cut him, I would end up putting in Steve, the tribe elder. Yeah, I think this is him. Yeah. So he's the one I would consider the most. But I just like the fact that he has an ETB trigger. That's one of the things I like about him. And the second part is if he does die, like he's an easy block. Like I will throw him under any bus and be like, yeah, you're gone. I'm a draw card. Like, cool. Like we're in. So that's why I like him in here, is because he serves some value. He is 4 mana, which can be a lot. You would think so, but really the draw card is really nice, and he's also a blocker, which can be invaluable sometimes. Yeah. I do, but I don't really have one. I don't really have a lot of instances. So that's the thing. This is the other interesting part of this deck is So if you look at the types, I'm running 34 creatures, 1 planeswalker. I'm running 6 sorceries and 3 instances. Like, I'm not really running a lot of interaction outside of the only real interaction I have are things like Scarab God, who can just exile a creature, or the mill stuff. And yeah, they do for non-creature spells. For a non-creature. So yes, you do. That is true. Like if I were to cut something besides my Alert Queen, it would be the Llanowar Elves, because it is a raw. That's a raw mana dork. At least the Birds of Paradise flies, like that's something. But the Llanowar Elves is just a raw ass mana dork. But I also like him because it's a creature. I can pull him if I need him, and so that's why he's in here. And it's also yeah, yeah. I'm wanting ramp of some kind. What is this? Is it an enchantment? No. Ah. Enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it. Tap, choose a color. Add 1 mana of that color for each charge. I've seen this card. Okay, so I've seen this card. Um, it works very well with proliferate. Um, I don't think my deck has a strong enough proliferate to warrant this. Oh no, I'm thinking of something else. So this is, yeah, tap, choose a color, add 1 mana of that color for each charge counter. Okay, that's different. Okay. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Okay. I see that. Yes, I see that. I see that. Okay. Okay, okay, okay. No, it doesn't really work with him. You're thinking of, no, he uses energy counters. This is charge counters. Nope. But I do, so I see this. I see this. So it's basically a 3 mana rock if you just put 1. Cuz the way it works is you put 1 into X, so it's going to cost you 3 ones. You have to do 3 at minimum. Yep. No. So if you look at it, so wherever X is, you put the number 1. So you put 1 at the mana cost, so it's going to cost you 3. But then it says Astral Cornucopia enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it. Well, you only put 1 into X, so it's going to be 1 charge counter. That's the mana cost, but this says that X we only put 1 in, so you're only going to get 1 of that color if you only paid 1 into X. No, you have to put 2 into each X. X, it's like in math, X only equals a certain number. So if I were to put 2, if you put 2 into X, this is going to be a 6 mana rock. Because correct. So you can do, so it's basically a commander sphere, which in this deck is not, that's not bad. That's really not bad. Because you're right. Correct. And like you said, if you do proliferate it, you do get the some bonus out of it. So if I do happen to proliferate, great. Like, we did it. Then it'll change to, okay, now I can put 2, I can tap it for 2 mana. So if we do proliferate, great. We're off to the races. Yeah. This is a card, it's $1. It's super cheap. I would arguably cut Llanowar Elves for that. And I would I would at least try this. I would leave this in here and try it for sure. Because I think that has potential, just like Everflowing Chalice. I think that definitely has. Yes. Yep. It was, I think it was 4, maybe 6. 5. Gotcha. Yeah. Did you put a Karn's Bastion in your Mothman? It's worth, if you can find one, it's worth it. Like, it's a land, it's a utility land, but it does proliferate, and it's just one more source. It's just nice. It's just nice to have. You don't always have to use it. A lot of poison decks use it to, like, you know, proliferate the poison counters or whatever. But yeah, he's pretty nice. And it's pretty cheap. I know it says $2 on Card Kingdom, but you can find it probably pretty cheap somewhere. Like, it's not an uncommon card. Yeah. But I'm pretty, overall though, from where we started with this deck at the very beginning, I'm pretty happy with it. Oh yeah, the dredge cards. Cause what's dredge do again? Yeah. If you would draw a card, instead you may put exactly 3 cards from the top of your library into your graveyard. So is dredge mill or is that different? It is mill. Okay. Interesting. Gets +3/+3. Yeah. Return up to 3 target land cards from a graveyard to your hand. Interesting. So it's kind of like a, yeah. Yeah. Which is great. Golgari Grave. Oh, yeah. Enters the battlefield. Put a +1 counter on it for each creature card in your graveyard. That's gross. And it has regenerate. That's gross. That's gross. Yeah. That's gross. Trying to see if any of these other ones are any good. At the beginning of your upkeep, a +1/+1 counter on this. At the beginning of your end step, destroy each creature with converted mana cost. Destroy each creature with converted mana cost. Oh no, that's self-destructive. That's awful. Oh man, the Stinkweed Imp's kind of good. It's got a weird death touch. Says whenever he deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature. That's interesting. Yeah, it's not bad. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. Honestly, this Dackmore Salvage, actually, I would put that in for a land. Because if I end up milling it, you can just get it back real quick. So I would definitely take that. Yeah, that's interesting. I could definitely put Golgari Grave Troll. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's kind of good. I would honestly put that in for. I mean, Undead Alchemist is good, but honestly, the Golgari Grave Troll is kind of nutty. I'll consider him for now. I'll move him to considering for now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do like that. It's like that one card you have where his power is based on the number of cards in graveyards. That's what it reminds me of. Yeah. But I mean, overall, I'm really liking where this deck's at from where we first started. This was the most challenging deck I've built so far because it's so different from any of my other decks. Because it is my first mill deck. It is my first mill deck. No, no. I'm here to, like I said, just outvalue. And yeah, it's kind of interactive because I'm stealing other people's creatures. But it's also like, oh man, like if this versed your Spellslinger deck, it's like I'm not going to get a ton of creatures out of that. Like, so it really kind of depends on the field, but it'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting because the curve is actually kind of is really interesting to me. So the curve has like that almost perfect, like it peaks at 4 and then it like goes back down. So I'm not a huge fan of that because normally no they are well, so here's the thing though. This is the most interesting deck because it's not necessarily about cutting cards, it's about because I'm pulling a lot of these from the graveyard. So a lot of these mana costs don't matter as much. And I'd almost prefer to have higher 4 mana costs because obviously you want when you have 4 mana, you want to drop your commander, obviously. But once he's out, it's like then I always have 4 mana, so I'm always gonna want to drop something. And a lot of them are like that Undead Alchemist, the Wise Mothman, Solemn, Sidisi, the Ravenous Chupacabra, Nightkin Ambusher, Biomancer, Archmage, Bloatfly Swarm, Archaeomancer. Like they're they're all four creatures that I can drop, but then still tap my commander and grab something else if I need it. So it's really interesting. The curve kind of sort of matters, and most of my curve is 4 and lower, which is really nice. And then my big drops are like my draw power and my untap stuff, or my win cons, or my plan Bs. And then the 6 drops are like the really big blasts of, yeah, Breach the Multiverse, Virtue Persistence. Like those are the big ones. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing too. So I've thought about this just in Magic in general, because I had that opinion of anything that was like 5 or 6 mana, I shied away from a little bit. But I was watching some games, and I've been playing some games, and I was playing some games and dropping something that's 6 mana and nothing else usually has a pretty big impact on the game. Versus like, say on turn 6 and things have just gone like, turn 6 you have 6 mana. So dropping a 6/6 menace trample, blow up a permanent is number one. So with the Alpha Deathclaw, this is one of the few cards that has trample on it and menace, so it can get through to deal damage usually, and it's blowing something up, which is super nice. Possibly 2 things if I have the double ETB. So it's splashy. But it's also like, it kind of makes us, if I just hard cast this, it's a 6/6 menace trample. So even if someone does block with it, they have to block with 2 creatures, which is already like, I'm getting some, it is impactful. Because so I played a game last Saturday, and I did I think it was like turn 6, and I dropped a True Conviction. It's an enchantment. It's a 6 cost enchantment. It's the only thing I could do, but it was really splashy and very impactful because it's an enchantment that says all my creatures have lifelink and all my creatures get double strike. And it was my little like Kaiser token deck, so I just had these like little 1/1 and 2/2s, but I like swung out at this dude because I was low on life, and I was like, drop True Conviction, go to battle, swing. And it was a card that just had like a lot of splash, and I realized having, I don't want to say more, but having the appropriate amount of like 6 cost hopefully you'll learn, or not learn, but you'll just realize like as you play games, dropping a 6 cost is usually worth it. Even if it's like the first 6 cost on turn 6, it's like that usually has a pretty big impact. If that's the only card you drop, it usually warrants a problem that people want to get rid of. Uh, yeah, but like if I drop Alpha Deathclaw versus say I drop Solemn and an Arcane Signet, like I'm not really, I'm kind of sort of advancing the game, but I haven't actually like pushed forward in the game. Versus Alpha Deathclaw, that's a step forward. Where Solemn and Arcane Signet are more like sideways. They're like, hey, building up foundation. Where Alpha Deathclaw is like, nope, we're taking a step forward. You lose something. I have trample. I'm 6/6. I get over most things. Like, that's usually a pretty big hit. Uh, Same with like even those 7 cost ones, like that Breach the Multiverse. Like, you drop Breach the Multiverse, like you just everyone lost 10 cards. Everybody. And then you gained 4 usually. Like so immediately, yeah. So it's those bigger cost cards when you're deck building. I made the mistake of cutting a lot of those bigger cost ones because I'm like, oh man, 6 mana. Like, is that really? You do kind of have to evaluate: am I getting a lot for that 6 mana? Because there is obviously some bad cards that are like he drops and he's like, oh, I draw you a card, and you're like, that's bad. You're like, this bad dude, and he's like a 4/4 or something. So you're like, it's not great. It's not bad, but it's not great. So I think as we build these decks, not being afraid of the 6 cost, I think should be, so long as you're getting some good value out of it, I think should be kind of the takeaway from it. Yeah. Which, and for Mothman, I think that's super smart to think about ahead of time, is having kind of sort of a clear spot in 6 and then using 5 and 7 as your big splash. Because, yeah, your 4 slot really, ideally in Mothman, you want more in 3 and 5 than you do in 4. Because 4 is like, hey, I'm playing commander. Like, we're in. And then, yeah. And as far as like as far as like turn 1 play in commander, I've never really, the only decks I've seen that really benefit off of turn 1 are elves and really elves are the big one that come to mind. I would argue artifact decks, but even those are very slim. The most common turn 1 plays you will ever see is play a land, and you either play a Mana Dork, Wayfarer's Bauble, or Soul Ring. Those are usually the turn 1 plays that people do. And as you play, I've actually stopped playing Soul Ring turn 1 because if you play Soul Ring turn 1, that automatically puts you on the radar as a problem and a threat. Whereas there are, I will, that's rare. I usually only play Soul. If I open Soul Ring, I usually play it turn 3. Because at that point, at turn 3, it's like, drew Soul Ring. Like, I jumped in mana a little bit, but we're on turn 3. People maybe have a 1 or 2 card out. If you drop Soul Ring, it's not quite as noticeable. Versus if you drop Soul Ring turn 1, people like look at you and they're like, that's a problem. Yeah. So that's more, and that's kind of a play style tip. And that's something I learned from Command Knights that was on one of their podcasts. And I really took it to heart where I was like, oh yeah, like I really don't want to. Most people that win Commander, they either win because they've dominated the game the entire time and they were just like accelerated past everybody, or they were under the radar long enough that they were able to play that big splashy spell and solidify their position and go for the win. Bowser is very good at the latter. He's very good at staying under the radar and being. He's also a really good politic player, and that's not a criticism. He's very good at it. Yeah, I learned from him like every time I play. He's such a good political player, and he's so good. Even his board, he's so good at pointing out like other factors on the board that you're like, oh yeah, like that is like you make a good point. Like he's very good at politics. And so, but that's how he wins a lot, is that he stays alive long enough that people are like, hey, I'm going to take you out because he's really made a good point that you're the problem. And then when it's just you and him, he's like, yeah. So it's really, really interesting that he I don't know. I appreciate it. Like I really appreciate it that because I just learned so much from every time he does it. But
yeah, that is really cool.
So so I actually need to use the restroom real quick, but I was gonna pull up.
Yes.
I wanted to go to your Get Rog. I think you sent it to me. But
Yep.
could you? I was wondering if you could share your screen on Discord.
Yeah, I think I can. Yep. But yeah, I will also take a bathroom break real quick.
Cool. All right. I'll see you here in a sec.
Okay, perfect. See you in a moment.
Boom. I'm back, baby. Bump, 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 bump. Bump, 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 bump. Mm-hmm. Bump, bump. Oopsie. Oopsie. Not that one. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. I guess I could just look on my actual email. Bum, 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 bum. Bruh. Disrespectful. Thursday. Hell yeah, boy. Hell yeah, boy. All right, let's see if we can do some play testing here. 1, 2, 3 lands. We'll take it. First, we will draw a card for turn. It's a swamp. Crack that. We need an island. So we'll grab an island. Comes in tapped. Next turn, draw. Bird's Paradise. That's perfect. So we can actually... Oh, it's a scry, though. That's annoying. That's okay. We can play a Terramorphic Expanse. Crack that for Forest. Also comes in tapped. Next turn, draw. Okay. Now we can kind of do something. Because I can scry. Breach the Multiverse. Don't need that. Move to bottom of the library. And then we can tap a green.
Doing some goldfish.
A little goldfishing, just a little bit. So usually by like turn 5 or 6, or usually about 6 or 7 is when I'm like, okay, I should be pretty established, you know. Like here, it's really tempting.
It's in that video that I sent you, and Bowser was like talking about that, of like what turn is the most important to you, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I can go black, blue, actually black, blue, green. Bring that out. And then I can tap these two to bring this out with a counter on it. Next turn, draw. Bring that out. I can bring out my commander with 1, 2, 3, 4. Give myself, oopsie, close. 2 rad counters. Boop, boop. I still have 1, 2, 3 mana, which is nice. I can't really do anything with it, so next turn I can draw, and then I mill 1 and 2. That was rough. Don't need any of those, though. Would lose 2 life. But see, at this point, though, I'm on turn 6. Commander's out. Have mill. And I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. So I can actually drop anything I really want. So that's actually pretty good. It's pretty good.
And you still got another land in hand, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Okay. Do you want to try sharing your screen?
Sure.
Let me see this theory of yours. I'm very excited for this.
Excellent. Okay. Okay, let's see which one is sharing. I'm gonna hope it's not the Twitch.
Yeah, if you pick just Windows, it should be like whatever window you're on.
Change windows. Screens. Nope. I want application. Oh, it's like applications versus. Let's just do a screen. Let's do. I want to do this screen.
Let's see if I can see it. It's still loading.
Okay. Hang on. Let me try something. Okay. So let's do this.
Oh. Do, do, do. It's loading. Worst case, I can pull it up.
Okay.
Absolute worst case.
It's acting kind of funny. It's acting like it's continually pausing it.
Interesting. Well,
like if I click off of that screen to go back to the deck profile.
Huh.
That's weird. And it's still loading. Yes.
Yep. Okay. That's okay. I can pull it up on yours. You'll just have to guide me through your whatchamacallit. Get Rog.
Okay, sorry. I hopped off. Okay. I'm back.
Okay. Did you have this under tags at all? Or
I did not tag this one. This one is just a this one's just a big old floppy deck.
Okay. Well, talk me through just give me the rundown. Give me the theme. Give me what are we doing here?
All right. Okay. So number 1, let's read Get Rog. That's the first thing to do.
It's the first thing. Amen. Okay, we have Get Rog. It's a 5 cost, trample haste. Whenever the Get Rog Ravenous Ride deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice a creature that saddled it this turn. If you do, draw X cards, then put up to X land cards from your hand onto the battlefield tapped, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. Saddle 1, and he's a 6/5.
Yes.
He's a frog horror mount.
Okay. So the things to keep in mind here are that he's 6/5. He is trample and haste.
Yep.
And he's a saddle 1.
Yep.
So saddle, as we kind of discussed earlier, but for stream and for documentation purposes, saddle works a lot like mount like or vehicles does. So basically, a creature that saddles doesn't have to have haste. They are effectively satisfying an activated ability to saddle. And so Gitrog will still have trample and haste even if he isn't saddled. But if he is saddled, he can and deals damage. So he does have to connect and deal damage, but he does have haste and trample as well. So he can attack the turn he comes out. Then he can sacrifice a creature and deal damage. So the first obvious synergy here is doing really big creatures with really low mana cost.
Okay.
That is the first obvious synergy. So that is one of the big things that's in this deck is the there are several creatures who are not costed appropriately as far as their power and their toughness because they have some kind of drawback in their effect. So maybe they can't attack. Maybe they have some kind of upkeep cost. Maybe they have some kind of trigger ability where if they attack they cost something crazy or something like that. So because we know we're not going to be using them for any of that stuff, or we know that we're not going to be attacking with them or blocking with them, we can easily play those very low costed creatures and know that we're just going to put them next to Gitrog, saddle them up, attack, sack them, and then draw X cards and then play X lands from that.
Okay.
So the second obvious synergy is we know we're going to be drawing a couple of cards every time that we attack with Gitrog, and we know that we can play a couple of lands every time that we attack with Gitrog.
Okay.
So landfall triggers are also probably pretty good in this kind of deck because we're going to be playing potentially a couple of lands at a time.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool. It really doesn't matter how big Gitrog gets. His power doesn't increase based on what saddles him. So you can saddle him with a 1/1, and you're going to draw one card, and you're going to be able to play one extra land. That's okay, but that's not really what we're going to try and do in this deck. So we're going to try and saddle him with stuff that has like 14 power, or we're going to have to try and saddle him with stuff that has quite a bit more power than that. So that way we can draw 30 cards, play 30 up to 30 lands, and then basically go insane. Is kind of the idea.
Okay.
So I'll kind of walk you through some of the creatures that we have, and that'll kind of explain some of the game plan as we go through some of those. The theory that I have for this deck, because this is Golgari, this is green and black. The theory that we have here is basically something that I like to call this is essentially hyper ramp. So I am playing all of the elves, well, most of them anyway, and I am also playing basically all of the ramp cards. So the idea is that I want to get to 6 mana as quickly as possible. Not only do I want to get to 6 mana as quickly as possible, I want to be able to play Gitrog and another big creature basically at the same time. And so I have to get to 5 mana for Gitrog, but potentially need to get to 3 or 4 more on top of that. I could do that the previous turn, and hopefully they stick around that long. But ultimately, that's the goal, is that there are several pretty quick, pretty easy sack targets that can come down for really cheap. They don't have to attack, they don't have to block. All they have to do is be sacrificed. So there's a few of these that kind of want to be sacrificed. For the most part, a lot of our big swingy boys they're just big high power, and that's kind of their whole point in the deck.
Okay.
Um so we can start with our planeswalker. I think this is like a perfect planeswalker for the deck. So here we'll read Nissa.
So it says landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you put a loyalty counter on Nissa. It has +1 untapped target land you control. You may have it become a 3/3 elemental creature with haste and Menace until end of turn. It's still a land. Or you can -5. You can put a creature card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control onto the battlefield from your hand or graveyard with 2+1/+1 counters on it. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of synergy there. That's going to be 4 mana. So that's theoretically the turn right before Gitrog.
Yep.
And it's got landfall synergy. It does a lot of the stuff that we want to do.
Yep.
So kind of going through. So basically, that's the theory that I was kind of talking through is the hyper ramp of we're playing way more ramp than we need, assuming that we're going to draw a lot and that we're going to play a lot. And so that's kind of the idea is that this is a little bit sacky. And we may end up with a lot more mana that we need than we need. And so I kind of want to play it and see how well that works. And if I end up with way too much mana and not enough other stuff, that's totally fine. The way Gitrog is worded is you can't sacrifice multiple creatures and compute all of their powers. It is just going to be his power alone. So, or it's just going to be the one power. So, or the one creature's power. So you can't saddle him with 14 elves, and well, you can, but he doesn't gain anything from that.
Right.
He can only sacrifice the one. So,
Okay.
Okay, so kind of going through some of the creatures, we'll
Sorry.
kind of go through them.
I'm just kind of getting a base of So this is a 40 land deck. So because you're
Yes,
kind of leaning into the landfall.
yes.
Okay.
So because he has the potential to draw 10 cards and put 10 cards onto the battlefield tapped,
Yep.
or 10 lands on the battlefield tapped, you do want to play more than the average lands. So 40 is kind of what I've seen other people's deck lists look like. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've stuck with. This is obviously a fantastic spelunking deck because they come in tapped. So if you have spelunking out, then they come in untapped and you can keep doing stuff on your turn, which is really cool.
Let me just
So
because this is landfall, I kind of actually want to look at lands just real quick.
yeah, please.
Just real quick.
There's
So
a lot of basics,
Yep.
but I did include several utilities.
Yep. Command Tower, Forest, Golgari. Okay, and I'm also assuming. So let's also preface it too. You mentioned this was a budget deck, correct?
Yes. Oh, yes. That's important. So this deck is this was built extremely cheaply. Not including the sideboard, this deck was basically built for like $50. This is all stuff that I either had or was able to get out of the 10-cent bin or was able to order for dirt.
Yep.
So yes, this is an extremely budget build. This can be upgraded significantly.
Yep. So I'll just say, because it is budget, I do want to recommend minor upgrades, and these upgrades are,
Yeah.
they shouldn't cost you anything. I do agree. So with 2 mana, this is a 2 mana. This is Golgari. This is green and black. I think you're right on track with Bajuka Bog. Command Tower is just a staple. The 15. I see no issue with running the basics. There's no issue with that.
Yeah.
So the one issue I do have is Golgari Gate. I don't like.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of lands that come in tapped and gain you nothing, or
Yes.
or don't have an untap clause like the check lands or reveal land, like this Necro Blossom is a reveal
Yeah.
something.
Reveal or check. Yeah.
So it has an opportunity to come in tap or untapped, but that I don't mind as much. But Golgari Gate's just a straight. I would rather
Straight up not good.
it's just not good. Like obviously Spelunking makes it for people who don't know, Spelunking lets you enter lands. Lands can come in untapped no matter what. Which is great. It's a great green card. I love it. So obviously with Spelunking you're winning. But with Golgari Guildgate, I would much rather see another basic in its place or another utility land in its place.
Okay. Yeah,
Uh,
I'm totally fine with that.
and even like I didn't see it on here unless I missed it, but even the Green Temple, the Scryland, at least lets you see the cards you're gonna draw and possibly bottom it. And that's a super cheap card. Like it's probably the same amount of cost. But at least it gives you something. It lets you see
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah.
And
I'm on board with that.
yeah. And again, this is budget. I get it. It's probably just what you have laying around. But of the cards, like there are some cards that are just so bad.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing I just thought of. I've talked shit on this card a lot, but Temple of the False God in this particular deck, I actually believe would be okay.
Because it's 5 lands and then it's active?
Correct. And because this is a landfall, you're drawing and dropping lands all the time, I think it would be okay. Now, I'll forewarn you, you will draw it in your opening hand every time. I don't make the rules. But on the off chance you don't, but you will, I think Temple of the False God would also be another plausible. At least it gives you a possibility just on the laws of probability, even though it defies them to no end. I think that would be a better one. Over Golgari Gate. The gate cards, I just don't care for. They just don't add any value. They're not even a forest swamp. Like it's not even a named land. It's just a tapped dual land. It's just raw bad. Just don't like it. Not a fan. But like Golgari Rot Farm, I don't mind as much. Bowser will talk shit on bounce lands all the time. I like them. I think they're neat. And plus with Golgari Rot Farm in this particular deck, you can drop it, bounce a land, but then you can drop it again with Get Rog with like zero issue. So I'm like, that's cool. Then you have these other ones that are just, they give you stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Return target creature card from a graveyard to your hand. Mosswort Bridge gives Hideaway. You know, Reliquary Tower is a duh. Rogue's Passage, best land in the game. Like, even Tainted Wood. I'm not a huge fan of Tainted Wood, but in this particular deck, because you're running 15 swamps, you'll probably have a swamp. Yeah. So, anyway, that's a very minor thing I just ranted on for like 10 minutes. But those are my suggestions. Temple of the False God, I think would be really good in this. You could drop, or you could add in the Scryland. I think it's Temple of Malice, I think. I don't remember. It's one of the temples. But it's a Scryland. Or
I think I got some of the temples in Mothman.
You should. Yeah, you definitely have it in Mothman. But it's also a super cheap card. It comes in every precon that had black and green in it. They're always in it. But there's the Golgari Guildgate's just not it's just not a good card.
Yeah, that's fine. I am all for recommendations like that.
Yeah, but those
Give
are
me just 1 second. I think my dogs are chewing on something.
Ah, son of a Banjo, quit that. Get that out of your mouth.
Okay, sorry, I'm back.
Oh, you're good. But yeah, I do think I just wanted to reiterate too. I know you're doing this is a budget deck, and like I said, you are doing what you either have laying around or what you found in the 10-cent bin.
Hmm.
Um, Having dual lands is important, even in dual uh, two color commanders.
Hmm.
So sometimes you do just have to take what you can get, but the cards I'm recommending are very easily available. Um,
Yes, definitely.
so that's my advice. But let's walk me through these creatures. So these are
Yeah.
from what you told me, their purpose is either from what I'm just like glancing at it, they're either mana dorks, sacrifice to the altar, or is that it? Is that it?
So there's a little bit of utility in some of these. So there's there's like 5 elves just right off the top. Um, Lupine prototype and is like one. This is like a great example of one that is like undercosted for what he is. And so that's like right next to where your mouse is currently.
So Lupine prototype can't attack or block unless a player has no cards in hand. Oh, but he's only
So
two
like
mana. But oh, that's easy
yes,
though.
exactly. So that's like a really bad effect, but it doesn't matter because it's 5. Like that's a 5/5 for 2 mana. Like
That's very
so
smart. Very smart.
that's really good. So so Lupine prototype is like that's a really good one. There's a few others that are um
So I'm
like
gonna
well,
I'm gonna do
oh
view
god.
details,
Yeah, please.
and I want to walk through these creatures
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as quick or
Let's
as
do it.
slow as you want. But so I actually
Yeah.
have this card.
Yeah.
So this is from
She
Ixalan.
yes. So descend is as long it just basically is like a check to see what's in your graveyard already. It's not necessarily a was it put there this turn or anything like that, as far as I understand. And
You
so
are correct.
what I liked about this was that it's a 3 mana 5/5 pretty quickly. And it's if it's a little bit later, then it's like okay, cool. Then it's a 7/7 like that kind of stuff.
Yep.
This one actually can be an attacker if it needs to be, which is kind of cool. It's
So
under cost, which is cool.
so your win condition. What's your like? What are some of your win conditions in this? Like
So
obviously you're
commander,
attacking with your commander, so commander
yeah.
damage has to be one. Is this like a
So
Voltron
commander
thing?
damage. Say again.
Is this like a Voltron thing, or is it more just kind of value?
It's so basically there's an assload of value that comes from that. And hypothetically, if I'm doing my mega ramp thing and I'm getting to get Rog on turn 3, I will hypothetically be so far ahead that I'll be dropping stuff too fast and too hard for people to keep up. So this is a fast deck. This is meant to go it's meant to go 2 mana up, 3 mana up, 4 mana up, 5 mana up every single turn, and just stay really far ahead, and then just start wiping people out. So there are several of these that like can't attack, but there are several of these that can.
So this is
Uh,
one that I do, like you said, I do like it. It is early. You could sack it and hit, draw
mhm.
5 ramp, or you can drop it later and it's actually going to be a bonk stick. Uh,
Exactly, yeah. And I'm drawing a lot, which is insane. Like that's just good
yeah.
in and of itself. So that's a good one. So like going to the next one. So this is sorted alphabetically.
Yeah.
Um,
Mana dork.
yep,
This is to ramp
just mana
you.
dork.
So this is a ramp. 4/5. When it enters the battlefield, return up to 2 creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. So this is good. So obviously, I saw Reliquary Tower down there. So obviously, if you
Mhm.
do draw and you have to discard, this is at least kind of
Yes.
recursion. A little bit.
Hmm.
He is 6 mana. He is 6 mana. But I
Yeah.
guess
So
you are
this
kind of
one's
ramping though. So I'd assume
yes.
your
So
curve is hopefully your curve is going to be 1 or 2 above everybody else.
yes, and my curve honestly is kind of it's kind of low. because even though I have a 6 mana or a 5 mana commander, my curve is kind of low because I have so many low costed big creatures.
Gotcha.
So Baloth Knoll he's cool for recursion. He's 35 cents is kind of the reason he got in here.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, he's kind of one of those that's like, if I upgraded this, he wouldn't make the cut. But at
Sure.
the budget, he's
Yeah.
a great pick.
No, and I think he serves the purpose. He's still that's 4 cards you can draw, and
Exactly.
yeah, no, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Copy Swarm. Oh, this is an eight
This is
dollar
one that
card.
this is one that I actually pulled from my Ixalan packs.
Ooh, very
This is actually
nice.
kind of interesting.
So at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you create a tapped token that's a copy of Compy Swarm. Okay, so this is just kind of
So
like a repeatable thing for you to tap and
yeah,
hope for like, and so you're at least drawing 2 with them, if need
yeah.
be.
So I'm drawing 2, but I know that a creature is going to die every turn that I sack something to get Rug.
Yep.
So effectively, this is a very slow get wide kind of thing, or go wide kind of thing, where it's like
Or at
I
least
know I'm
you're,
going to kill something.
and at least you're making blockers, right? Like at least
Yes, yes.
you're making some blockers, and yeah, I know I like this.
Yeah, so and it's low cost. It's a 2/2. I probably wouldn't sack that to get Rug because it's kind of better just to sit there and let it keep making copies, because this is one of the token generators that whenever I sack something, this sits next to it, and then I get a copy of Compy Swarm. Then the next turn, I am now going from 2 to 4, and then from that turn,
Yes.
I'm going from 4 to 8, that kind of thing.
So, and hopefully you know this too, and I'm saying this for my benefit as well because I overlook things like this in Commander. But
Mhm,
when you drop this early, something dies, you make a copy, it comes in tapped. You can
mhm.
still block with the original, but that copy will
Yeah,
still be able to make another Compy Swarm.
that's a great point. I'm really glad you said that.
Be-
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So you don't
That's really
need
good.
the original card for it to keep copying because it's already
Mhm.
making a copy. And those are things that I easily overlook in Commander, but I also think that's very important because that token comes in tapped. Most people are inclined to use the token copies first before the original.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
if you needed to, you could easily use the original instead. And I just want to make that pretty clear because I feel like with new players in Commander, people just overlook that stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And it's not a token that is a 2/2 dinosaur with blank. It is a token copy of
Correct.
Compy Swarms. So yeah, that's a
Correct.
great point.
Uh, David, that looks like something to draw 11 cards.
Yes. This is a 4 mana.
11, 10.
Yes, 11, 10. So this is one of the big ones, and that is severely undercosted, but it's because he has a really bad drawback effect, and I'm like, cool, I don't care.
Yep.
I'm not going to use that. So
Correct.
anyway, yeah, this is a really cool one. There's actually 2 Dagmoths in here, Damogoths in here, and
Love it.
this is the first one.
That's perfect.
Yep.
There's the other one. Dagmoth. Uh,
Yep.
at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. He's a 7/6. He still costs 4 mana. But whenever you sacrifice him, each opponent discards a card. You draw a card. You get to. So even if worst case, like someone like gets rid of
Yep.
your commander, you still kind of get something out of it. That's nice.
Well, he's a perfect sack to get Rug, because when you sacrifice him, he
Oh,
gets the
yeah,
effect.
I didn't even realize that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That-
So he's a 7/6, which is still a lot, but it's like it's 4 mana, 7 cards, and I get to draw an additional card. Each opponent discards, and I gain 2 life. So
Value,
it's like I just think that's hilarious.
value.
Yeah, he's perfect. He and
Uh,
Get Rock, best friends.
Another mana dork, just the same
Yep.
thing. Mana
Yeah. So this
dork.
one is the inverse, where it's a green card that gives you a black, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then that one just
Yeah.
just gives you green.
Ah, Galta. I love Galta. Everybody loves.
So
Well,
yeah,
people either love him or they hate him.
yeah. Galta I think is perfect in this deck because you can get his cost so low
Oh yeah.
just with having other creatures out here. So like the possibility of dropping him for 2 mana, 3 mana for a 12/12 is just huge.
Yeah,
So
I run him in my Godzilla deck, and
yeah, that's
he's wonderful.
perfect.
He's wonderful, and
Yeah, and he
and
has trample and all that stuff.
yeah, so he's one you can attack with, or you can sack him to draw 12.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's great.
Exactly. Yep.
Uh, this is a great, just out of the gate. This is a great card because it's a first strike death touch. So
Yes.
this alone is just a great blocker.
Yeah. So
Or
this one,
go ahead.
oh good.
Go ahead.
So this one doesn't directly do what Gitrog is trying to do, but I loved that this was a great blocker. I loved that it has its low mana curve and it has a way to kind of get me back into the game in certain ways. And so I thought that this was just a good include as like kind of a backup plan and kind of a okay, Gitrog has been removed 4 times. I'm like really hurting. Hang on a second. You know what I mean? Like I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a great defender because with any
Mhm.
deck that is aggressive and fast, you will quickly become the target for attacks. So having a first strike death touch is amazing. It's very
Yes.
hard to get around outside of flying with this particular one. Um, so I view this more as a blocker and defender. Its abilities, if it does deal combat damage, is good. They're great even,
Hmm.
but if you're attacking with this, it means you're definitely on the winning side. I view this much more as a defensive card.
I agree.
Oh, hang on, Michelle's here. Hello.
Oh, do you think you could take a few minutes and take the puppy?
Is that Michelle?
Yeah. I need to take the dogs out real quick.
Yeah, you're fine. Tell Michelle I said hello.
Brandon says hello.
Hi.
She says hello. So I'll be right back. We're gonna go take the dogs out real
Yeah.
fast. I'm back, baby.
He's back, baby.
I'm back, baby. All right. Glitz the Sunslayer. Great defender.
Excellent.
Do you have this card?
No.
Oh.
Did I order it? I don't know.
Oh. I just noticed it was like a $5 card. So
Yeah, I think I went ahead and ordered that one because I was like, yeah, it's good.
it is. It's very good. I pulled this in Outlaws. This is a good card.
Yeah, so Honest Rustine I think is perfect. I mean, he
Yeah.
does everything that you could ever want, and he's cheap, and he makes everything cheaper to cast. Like, he's perfect.
I actually thought about putting this in the deck we just looked at. My radiation.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, honestly, that's kind of better recursion than the other one that was higher cost.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's good. Llanowar Elves, yeah. We just talked about him. He's great. That's a 2 cost, 5 draw. That's so good. That's so good. I love that. I love stuff like this in Commander, where people see these cards like, when would I ever play this?
Mm-hmm.
And then someone's like, oh yeah, I know where I'd play that. I love
I know. I'm going to give it to a frog.
Yeah, that's so good. I love it. Phyrexian Soul Forger. Oh, this is another one.
Yep.
So this is a cumulative upkeep, sacrifice a creature. Damn. Wow. Yeah, 8 costs, 3.
It's really bad, but a 3 mana 8/8, like that's perfect.
Well, and even like the cumulative upkeep is bad. But again, even worst case scenario, you can sacrifice itself to its cost and
That's true.
well, or just let it die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. This is really smart. This is a really smart card.
Yep.
So I put this in my my Goad Boros deck because it draws a lot. And in your deck, it also draws a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. It's probably not going to last very long on the field, but it's very good.
Yeah, it's 5 mana, but it does both things that I want to do. One, it hurts the opponents, and I'm going to draw potentially 8 cards in a turn or something like that. But then 2, it is also potentially a sack for Get Rug. So, I think it does both things that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks cool.
That does. Another 3 draw, 6/6.
Yep.
Hammer Skull attacks while you control another dinosaur, put a stun counter on it.
Yeah, this one can attack, but because I have like Galta and Compy and I think there's another dinosaur here in a minute, but so there are a couple of dinosaurs, so it's possible that it doesn't have a stun counter, but like you said, it's a 3-drop 6/6, so like that's the idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great. Rain balls. Oh, landfall. Here we go.
Yep.
Oh, that. Excuse me. That can get nutty real quick.
Yep. And it's still got trample and all that stuff, so it's still good.
Yeah, but like with your landfall, you drop 4 land. That's 4 4/4s.
Yep. Yep. We're not quite to the crazy stuff yet.
That's still very good.
Oh yeah. No, it's perfect. But it's not quite the crazy card yet.
That's another 3-drop.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yep. 3-drop 6/6, perfect.
Another 3-drop, big bang. Man, you did so good. You did so good with these.
Yeah, and this one's 3-drop 7. It's perfect. This one's cool. I think you're gonna like this.
Okay, when Ruthless enters the battlefield, sacrifice another creature you control. If you do, create another treasure tokens equal that creature's power. Okay. You can pay 3, sacrifice X artifacts, return target creature card with power X, or less from graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, yeah, okay.
So it's kind of like an alternative sack outlet. Like, so if I have like several of my really big beaters, or maybe I have like a pugnacious hammer skull with a stun counter on it or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, cool, I'll sack it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it can untap this turn, no big deal. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. This feels like a, if things are going your way, like this is like win more. This is
Hmm.
a win more card.
Hmm.
Sakura
Yep.
Triwelder, we talked about this. This is a
Yep.
good card.
We love Steve.
Um, that's pretty
This
good.
is a weird one, and I don't know if this is good or not.
Depends on what you want. So
Yeah.
with your commander, it's pretty good. So the way what you can do. So when it says other tap creatures have death touch. So whenever you attack, you usually tap your creatures, which means when you're attacking
Yes.
creatures have death touch. And because your commander has trample, what you can do is assign one of his damage to the creature, and then the rest of it tramples. So even if they have a your commander's a 6, correct?
Hmm.
So even if they have like a 4/4, you can assign 1 damage to it and trample for 5.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like it's great. And then when things are untapped, hexproof is obviously always good. And it has the pay 1, tap it, untap a target creature you control or land you control. Yeah, I think this is a very smart add, smart addition. It's very good.
Okay, cool. I was like, I wasn't sure if it was like perfect or not. I was like, it seems like that's good because it's like, if they're untapped and they're hexproof, that's good protection.
Yes.
But if they're tapped, having death touch isn't great. Like, I was like, if they're tapped, they can't really block or anything. So I was like, that may not be that good. But
Yeah, for
I
your
don't
trample, it's very good.
Okay.
Now you'll still have the so say someone else has a 6/6,
Mhm.
you can still assign the 1 damage and trample for 5, but their 6 will still kill your commander.
Oh,
Because
gotcha.
it's still at the same time, but it's the
Yeah.
assignment of damage that could be the difference.
Okay.
So even in that
That's
trade-off, that's still 5 commander they're taking.
Yeah.
And with if you are attacking with those other little tokens you're making too for value, people are a lot more hesitant to block.
Yeah.
Or and then obviously even if they're untapped, just as blockers, having hexproof is always nice.
Yep. So this next card
Nope,
is
this is busted.
this is the other win con.
Yep. No. So most people in Commander know what this card is.
Yep.
This card is so difficult to like handle. But it is the correct card to have in this deck. It is the correct card.
Yes. Yeah. And I kind of like ever since I learned about this card, I kind of wanted a Scoot Swarm deck. So I was like, okay, this is pretty cool.
You will, depending on the pod, obviously, probably won't last long. But
Yep.
you know what? It is the correct card in this deck. This
Yeah.
If there's ever a Scoot Swarm deck to put it in, this is it. This is great.
Yep.
Shakedown Heavy. Whenever Shakedown Heavy attacks. Oh, this is another 3.
This is another big dude.
Yeah.
He can attack, and then they can pay me off to not attack, kind of thing, by letting me draw. But yeah, it's cool.
Nope, that's still that's value. I mean, why? Here's the thing too with your commander with him. Like, why would you even attack when you can just sack him and draw 6? Like,
Yep.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I like Tireless Provisioner.
Yep.
Yeah, I like Tireless Provisioner. So there's another one that makes clues, but I like this one.
Mhm.
I like this one a lot better. And with your land
Yeah.
stuff, like you'll
Mhm.
be. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up making more food tokens, because
Yeah.
you may end up needing that life gain as well, more than you think.
Especially with the next card.
Wall of Blood.
This card is stupid.
So you pay 1 life, it gets +1/+1 till the end of the turn. Oh, so you can just
39 life.
yeah, and you could just draw 40 cards, and
Yep.
that's amazing. Holy shite!
Yeah.
So that's
So you can make that a 2020 or a 2022, sorry, and
draw 20.
still and draw 20, drop 20 lands, and you're good.
That's so good, dude. That's so good.
Yeah.
I love that.
This card is basically perfect for the strategy.
Oh yeah, this is so good. It is I do like the gamble because you are dropping your
high
life,
risk.
but that is so much fun. This is a fun
Mhm.
card. This is a fun card.
Mhm.
I love that, dude. This looks like
I knew
another,
you'd like that.
yeah, it's another 1 drop.
So this one's cool because it's 2 mana, and you can get a mana of any color, but then the cool part about it is that tap ability pardon me, can also help with like swinging out or closing out games. I just think it's like cool for the multi-purpose.
Yeah, it can. There's another better version of this. That's the it's the halfling from Lord of the Rings. And it's better. It is more expensive. I think it's like $5. But
okay.
It's
do you know which one it was?
I can look real quick. Woe's Pathfinder. Remember that. That's where we were.
Yep.
Oopsie. I guess we do have to do it this way. Delighted Halfling. This is it. So you tap it, add a colorless, or you can tap it, add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast a legendary spell. That spell can't be countered.
Oh.
Sorry, it's not $5. It's $20. However.
Oh, yeah, that's
sorry,
good.
it's not 20, it's 10. Yeah, let me look at TCG Player wants for it. Yeah, it's $10. And that's for the full art. It's a very good card. It's a very good mana dork.
That's a very good mana dork. That's not exactly what this one does, so that's cool. That's a little bit of variety too.
I thought this one was 2 mana cost. That's why I thought of it.
Yeah,
I was mistaken.
But it's still 1 for a mana dork. That's great.
Yes, it's and again, that's an upgrade.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2. I thought it cost 2. I was mistaken. But
no, that's good.
But for future, like if you did end up upgrading, 7 mana to make another creature gain trample is ridiculous.
And +3/+3.
Nope, that's bad. That's bad turn.
So
now
I agree. I agree. However, with the fact that like the option to sack something and that's 3 more cards, like I don't know.
Nope, that's bad.
That's still probably not that good. Yeah, you're right. That's still probably not that good. But anyway, I like that there was an option.
Correct. I get it. I do get it. But for 7 mana, I think there's better things we can drop for 7 mana.
I agree.
But I get it. I get it.
Yeah, and like Birds of Paradise would go in here, like if I had like a little bit like just as upgrades go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like so there's a lot of like other better mana dorks, but yeah, this is another frog. This one is undercosted technically, but it is a vanilla. It doesn't have any effect.
Yep.
But 18 is pretty good.
I actually have this card. It cracks me up. There's another card.
I think it's just Yargle. I think Yargle is very similar.
Yeah, he's a 9/3 for Yargle.
Oh, he's cheap too. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Well, it's because he's a vanilla. Yep, this is the one I have. Yeah, he's a 9/3 for 5. Yeah, he's just black.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's great.
I love frogs.
Yeah, he's really fun.
Yeah, 9/3 for 5 is decent. That's about right.
Yeah, you have better value with your other cards. I think you have better stuff in here, but I do like this. This is very splashy.
Yeah,
You know, an 18/6, I think is
and
really,
it can
really good.
attack and all that kind of stuff. So it does everything that I want it to do.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good.
So
So now we're going into the sorceries. Let's look at the sorceries. Culling Ritual. I personally, I like this card. It does not
I think it's
always
good.
it does not always hit. I will tell you that out of the gate.
Yeah,
But when it does hit, it's very nice.
yeah. So my thought process was that blockers with Death Touch are one of the hardest thing that's going to be hard for this deck to deal with. So, or indestructible. But that this doesn't help with that. But this does help with that kind of stuff, and its ramp kind of a little bit built into it. So I liked it. And I liked that it was I just think it's good, and it's a board wipe potentially. So,
Yeah.
so I thought it was
It gets rid of
most
tokens,
artifacts.
gets rid of a lot of tokens. Because
Yeah.
tokens are 0 mana, so treasures, copies,
Mhm.
things like that. It gets rid of all those. I will also say your commander's one of the few that if you get his effect off once, it'll usually end up paying for his cost, for his second summon pretty quick.
Totally agree.
So you
Yep.
don't really have to worry as much about that. But this is a very budget board. It's a loose board wipe.
Yeah.
But it is
It's like a
good. Like
yeah. It's a soft board wipe.
it's a very soft board wipe. You can use the mana to get your commander out and clear the board of some little things,
Mhm.
which is really nice. Your commander has trample, so even if they have a death touch blocker, most death touch blockers are low power. So
Yeah,
you may
that's
be
kind of my
like,
logic there.
yeah, you may be like, you know what? I'll lose my commander, but I'm gonna draw. Well, let me read your commander.
Yeah, I'm still gonna draw 14 cards, so who cares?
Hang on, let me read them real quick. Let me read them. Make sure I get my ruling correct. Whenever the Get Rog deals combat damage to a player. They may have it in. They have no rulings for it yet. When it deals combat damage to a player. Yes. Okay. I was making sure the timing worked out. So it's
Mhm.
still dealing combat damage. So even if it dies in that combat step, you still dealt the combat damage. So you should still. So when it deals combat damage, damage happens at the same time. While it's calculating, you sacrifice a creature, draw your cards, do the lands, then he dies.
Yep.
So I was making sure that panned out.
Yeah.
So
That was my understanding as well, but I'm glad you agree.
Yep. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
Yeah.
Fade from history. Each player who controls an artifact or enchantment creates a 2/2 green bear creature token. Then destroy all artifacts and enchantment. This is fascinating.
Yep.
Each player who controls an artifact or enchantment creates a 2/2 green bear creature token. This is so good.
So that's another like soft board wipe. It gets rid of everything, and they just get one bear in exchange.
Yeah,
so
but getting rid
I
of
like that.
artifacts and enchantments, that's so good.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I love this. This is such a, I don't know what you call it, a very niche, like, deck tech. I love this. I love this. That's so good. Farseek ramp. I assume you'd have Feed the Swarm, Languish. Yeah, because your commander survives that board wipe.
Yep.
Life's Legacy. As additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature. Yeah, I guess.
So that's like a half a Get Rog.
Yeah.
So I like this because this is another. This isn't so to me. This is an early turn play, where I can go up in card advantage before I get to Get Rog. So this is 2 mana, and I have several of them that are costed at 2 or 3 mana. So potentially I could get an additional 5 cards or something out of this.
You could. I'm not sold on this, but I'll move on.
Okay. Yeah.
Mandate of Abandon. Choose target creature you control. Destroy all creatures with power less than that creature's power. Yeah.
It's a board wipe.
Yep. It's good.
And I have huge, powerful creatures, so
Yep.
I feel like that's easy.
Nature's Lore. It's a staple. So good.
Yep.
Pillage the Bog. Look at the top
Oh, you're
X
gonna like
cards
this
of your
one.
library. X is twice the number of lands you control. That's great for you. Put one of them into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Plot. Oh, I love this card. You can set this
Yeah.
card up super early and then play
Yep.
it way later. Yeah, this is great. I love this card.
Yep.
That's a very good
Yeah.
tech. Stable. Yeah, we talked about Assassin's Trophy. It is the better
Mm-hmm.
removal, but same with Beast Within. That's good. This has potential. This has potential. We're in the instance.
Yes,
noticed.
I'm following along.
Yeah.
You're good. So my thought was I'm running like 15 basic swamps, so I'm like I feel like that could get out of hand pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Pretty early, so I like it. I think it's good, cheap removal.
Yeah.
1 mana.
Force of Despair.
I like this one a lot.
If it's not your turn, you may exile a black card from your hand rather than pay a special mana cost. Okay. Destroy all creatures that enter the battlefield this turn.
It's Torrential Tribute. I found it.
It's not.
It's kind of Torrential Tribute. I love it. It's so cool, and the art is so good.
This is a more of a trap hole than a Torrential Tribute.
I don't disagree with that, but it's what I like about that is that it's like, okay, if you went off and you did a whole bunch of stuff, or if you dropped a big creature, or if you like scoot swarmed to infinity, then it's like, okay, here you go. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just think this is like, it's a board wipe that I just think it's cool. I just think it's cool. And it's like, I don't know.
Okay. I'm gonna come back to it later.
Okay. It's not perfect. But I love it. I was like, it's Torrential Tribute. I was like, great. I was like, that's amazing.
Nope.
Because there's so many things that like, because so many of the sorceries, they can get to their battle phase because sorceries board wipe on my turn. And so I was like, an instant that can board wipe, I was like, that's cool.
I don't think so. I'm gonna explain it later, but we're gonna keep going.
Okay.
But this is definitely one I think you should cut.
Okay.
Grizzly Savage. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. You put a creature or a land card. Put the rest onto your graveyard. That's okay.
Get Rog.
That's okay.
It's Baby Get Rog. It's 2 mana. It's ramp.
Yeah, I don't love the it's kind of sort of ramp. It's okay. I don't hate it. Kamal's Will. Choose one. If you control commander, you can choose both. To the end turn, any number of target lands you control become. This is a game ender.
Yep.
Choose target creature you don't control. Each creature you control deals damage equal to its power to that creature. So you can remove a creature and then you can create like 40, well, probably more like 10 1/1s.
Yeah.
With Vigilance, Indestructible, and Haste and swing them out. That's pretty
Yep.
good. That's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's a game ender, but that's definitely it's an instant. So you can also just do this as a surprise, like block, like got them out because they're indestructible.
And they're indestructible and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good. I would put this more under protection than I would. Game ender. Nature's Claim. This is a staple. Removal. This is easy. More draw or your non-creatures +3. Yeah.
So this is something. So I think Return of the Wild Speaker it's very much a staple, but I think it's kind of similar to to that other one that's like sacrifice to draw.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I think it's kind of similar to that, where it's like obviously that one has like a cost of 2 cards because I had to get it onto the field and then I have to sacrifice it, but I think this one's I think this one's cool. It's perfect.
And you can also do a non-human creatures you control get +3
Yeah, that's a
+3.
push.
It can be a push. It can be a push. A push.
Yeah.
I actually have this card. This is a really nice card. I love.
Smugglers.
Yeah, I love.
I pulled this too.
I love the sprees because they give you
I
options.
think it's really cool.
Yeah, they give you options,
Yeah.
and I love it. So it's protection with the hexproof. You can drop something big out of your hand, which you have.
Yep.
And then it has the whole mill effect. Like it's great. I love it.
Yeah. I love this because of the ability to monster manual, but I also really liked the ability to have protection and be like, okay, 2 mana and my commander is hexproof and indestructible. Like I really liked that. And so I was like, okay, that alone is probably good enough. But then I was like, okay, the other stuff is very good. So I liked it.
Yep. Unlikely Aid. I have this card. It gets +2, gains indestructible to the end of the turn. Just protection, I assume. Or it can also, and the +2 is kind of nice. Gives you an extra card draw if you want it. Rapid Vigor.
So
more protection.
So what I really liked about that was the indestructible. And it's cheap. It's cheap indestructible, which is cool.
Yeah. Rapid Vigor bring something back that sacrificed or died. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's board wipe protection. So if they austere command me, then I just get everything back.
Well, you can also use it on your thing that was sacrificed, and so you can like bring it back.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Alter the Wretch. This is a 2-face card. Enter the battlefield. You may sacrifice a non-token creature. If you do, you draw X cards, then mill X cards. X is that creature's power. You can craft it with 1 or more creatures and 4 mana. Or you can pay 2 and a black, return from your grave to your hand. Okay, so you can bring it back. But the other side is Wretched Bone Mass. Power and toughness equal to the total power of the exile cards used to craft it. Okay, and you have some strong creatures, so it can get really big.
Yeah.
Has flying, as long as an exile card used to craft it has flying. I don't know if you do have a ton of flyers, but
I don't think I have any.
That's okay. Oh, but it has a true for any of the other stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's decent. The thing I liked was the altar, the first side. I thought that was pretty good of just being able to go, okay, this is another sack something and draw a bunch if I have the ability to do so. So again, just more advantage.
Okay. Yeah, staple. Yep.
Yeah, Thought Vessel and Reliquary Tower are, I feel like, required just because because I'm going to be drawing so much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Asceticism's really good. I love this card.
Yeah.
Elemental Bond. If creature power 3 enters the battlefield under control, draw a card. This is very good. I like this card.
Yep.
Do you have this card?
Elemental Bond?
Yeah.
I think so.
There's another card called Garruk's Uprising that is cheaper and arguably better because it gets you 1 more card potentially.
Yeah,
and it gives your stuff trample, which is super nice.
Oh, my Scoot Swarm is shiny. I didn't realize that.
Ooh.
That's good.
Like if you have this card, great. But I think Garruk's Uprising is a better, cheaper card.
Yeah. Let me I'm looking through real quick. I kind of thought I did, but I'm double checking.
If not, I can honestly send you one because I have like 6 copies.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Spelunking, greatest card.
Oh, yes, I do have it.
Yeah. Spelunking, or not Spelunking. Garruk's Uprising has the potential to gift you Yeah. So because it enters the battlefield, it's the same mana cost.
Yes. So I have one and I have it in my dinosaurs. Oh, it's cheap.
It's super cheap. That's why I'm like, I would rather you get this than the $10 one
Yeah,
because
that's I didn't realize that was so cheap.
most of your stuff is 4 power or more, and then this gives you trample. And when it enters the battlefield, if your commander's already out, you get to draw a card when it enters the battlefield. It's just a better card, in my opinion.
I didn't realize that was so cheap. Okay, cool.
Yeah, bro. Here to help.
Yep, definitely.
And then Spelunking, greatest card for green that ever came out in Exelon.
Yeah, this thing freaking rocks.
It's so good. Sadly, so I will admit, in your deck in particular, it's really, really good. It's really, really
yes.
good.
So good that I want to run the second one that has its effect because there's another card that does that where lands can enter untapped, but I think it's expensive. Yes, Amulet of Vigor.
Yep.
And
Like
Amulet
$20.
is $25.
Yep. It's very good. But Spelunking it's good. It's very good. I think you did the right call. I love this card. This is one of my favorite cards. I run this in Godzilla. It's so much fun.
Yep.
At the beginning.
This is the other win con.
Yeah. Double the power and toughness of each creature you control until the end of the turn. So, just to note, doubling the power and toughness happens at each combat, not yours. So when they swing at you, all your stuff doubles until the end.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so it's each combat.
So hypothetically, timing wise, this still works with the saddle effect because I saddle at attack declaration, or do I saddle?
No, you saddle it during the main phase.
Okay, and then
so you saddle,
but its power would still double even if it's saddled.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So the saddle is when it deals combat damage to a player, you sacrifice a creature that saddled it this turn. If you do, you draw X cards and put up to X land cards from your hand to the battlefield tap. X is the sacrificed creature's power. So whatever the power is when you sacked it is what you draw.
Okay.
So
perfect.
Yeah, the doubling effect will trigger.
Cool. So all of those, so everything that you looked at, like Wall of Blood, and you were like, oh, you could pay 39 into that. Like, yes, that is the idea.
Yeah, yes. You can deck yourself out if you choose.
Yep. Oh, for sure.
Or close to it.
Yeah, I feel like this is just perfect, and I feel like it's super cool. And I got a really cool art form of it.
Yep. And then we already went over the lands. So, okay.
Yep. I think that is so the way I have it set up down here is the sideboard is everything that is good but is expensive. And then everything that is in the considering is cheap and is good.
Yep. Let's see here.
We don't have to go through those. Those are just things that I was considering.
I'm just glancing through real quick. I think what you have and what you've done is very good. I love the cheap creatures with bad effects versus and with his effect. I think that's very good. I think that's very good.
One of the other ones, so there is one card that I already have that I was like, oh, I really want to find a spot for this, is Soul Coil Viper. I think it is hilariously good.
Where's it at?
For this strategy. So it'll be in my considering all the way down.
So you pay a black, tap it, sacrifice it, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with finality counter on it. Actually, only as a sorcery. Okay.
I think that's just hilarious. Because the finality counter, like, it'll die later. So it's like, oh, I don't care. That's not what I'm doing. So anyway, I just think that's hilariously good. I wish it had like Death Touch or something like that, just so that it could like block as well. But I just think that's good.
What do you mean? What do you mean it's funny?
So being able to grab something out of the graveyard without like paying for it because it comes out unpaid for.
Oh,
So
I see. I see. So if you had to like discard something, or you already sacked something, and you can like bring it back.
yes, yeah. So
Okay.
I can get something else back out, or
Yes.
let Gitrog go to the grave and then get him out and dodge commander tax or something like that.
Gotcha. Yes. No, that's pretty good. So there were two cards that I was like not
Yeah.
sold on.
So Guidegate was one. Force of Despair was another.
What was something gate?
Golgari Guidegate.
Oh, is that the land? Yeah.
Yes, and I just swapped it for a swamp.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, get that out of here. Get it out of here. Put that scry land in there or something.
yeah, I just put a swamp in just for simplicity's sake. So I'm at 15-16.
Force of Despair, man. Okay. In Commander in particular, I think this is a bad card.
Okay.
Because it says if it's not your turn, you may exile a black card from your hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost. But then it's destroy all creatures that enter the battlefield this turn. That destroy all creatures that enter the battlefield this turn is only going to hit one out of your 3 opponents.
Yeah.
Versus, so it's not even a real board wipe.
Yeah.
And it's not even board wiping them. It's just getting rid of
Yeah.
what they put out this turn. And you're
That's fair.
exiling a card that you could potentially draw.
Or just paying the mana.
Yeah.
But yes.
The art is cool. 10 out of 10 art.
Yeah.
And,
I love the art.
Yeah. In Commander, I don't think this is good. In the other formats where it's 1v1, it's better because you're only dealing with one person. But I think in Commander in particular, because it's focusing on one of your 3, it's not very good.
Okay.
That's my say on it.
Okay. No, I'm cool with that. I wouldn't be, so I'm not opposed to that. I am not opposed to let's see. I'm like looking through because I'm pretty sure my other okay. Okay. So I have a couple of other options that I think are good.
Okay.
Number 1 is Slaughter Pact.
Where's that?
That will be. Let me see if I actually put it in here. If I have it like in the considering or anything. So it's an instant. No,
Nope.
I didn't put it in there. Okay, hang on one second. Okay, so I added it into the instance down at the bottom for considering.
Destroy target non-black creature at the beginning of your next upkeep. You pay 3 mana. If you don't, you lose the game. Okay.
So I think that one's pretty good. And then the other one would be Oubliette, and that is a enchantment in the considering as well.
Sometimes I gotta refresh it. Oubliette.
Of course.
When Oubliette enters the battlefield, target creature phases out until Oubliette leaves the battlefield. Tap that creature as it phases in this way. Okay.
So this is like commander removal, Or it's like, hey, you have one problem creature that's stopping me from doing something, or whatever. It's just like, get it out of here, and then they have to deal with my enchantment to get it back, kind of thing.
Okay. I definitely like that better as removing a problem.
Yeah.
Definitely like that better. For sure. For sure. Like that better. If I might add, I don't know what your budget is, but if you could find it in your heart, in your budget, your wallet, if you will.
Okay.
That's not it. Hang on. It's under. I'm looking for my deck real quick. Hang on. Hold on. It's a black card. I think it'd be really, really good in your deck. It is enchantments. Where is it? It's not. Maybe it is that card. But I think it's something else. Maybe it is. I think it's Grave Pact. Believe it's Grave Pact. There's another card called, I think it's Edict something. No. Hang on. Let me find it real quick.
Yeah, you're good.
Actually, I can do it this way. Yeah, like Grave Pact. It is Dictate of Erebos. So Dictate of Erebos or Grave Pact. But basically what it is this. When a creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it's just expensive. But
Yeah.
yes, it's fantastic.
But Grave Pact is the cheaper version, which is when a creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each other player sacrifices a creature. It's cheaper.
I mean, that's very good.
It's cheaper. It is $10 on TCG Player.
Yeah.
And
good.
so,
so hang on, that is. Hang on, let me.
Okay. I know this is a budget deck. Like, I'm aware.
Grave Pact, and then what was the other one called?
I think it was Dictate of Erebos.
Oh.
Yeah, Dictate of Erebos. Dictate is the more expensive one because it has flash.
Yeah.
But both do the same thing. But if you could get either one of them, if you could squeak it in there somehow, I think that would be great value for you because it kind of keeps everybody else on the same page as you. Because every time you're sacrificing and drawing, they have to sacrifice and draw. Or not draw, but they just have to sacrifice a creature.
Yeah.
So it puts you still one step ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I love that. I like that direction a lot. And I've kind of been interested in like a more like sacrifice or discard heavy deck that kind of gets people a little bit. Like I don't know how else to say that. So yeah, I mean I'm definitely interested.
But
That's cool.
It's $10. It'd be a more expensive card. And I know this is a budget deck. It's cards you have laying around or the 10-cent bin, so I get that. But yeah. I think if I was to add any bit of spice, that would be it.
Yeah, I mean it's cool.
It's super cool. I really want to add it to my Kaiser deck because it has kind of a similar effect. But I was gonna look for if I had any landfall stuff that was. good. And you're just in black green.
I'm kind of looking through some of my bulk real quick just to see what other like what other like black removal I have.
Nope, but I got a shit ton of tireless trackers though. How about that?
Go for the throat. Those are, I mean, that's all good.
Yeah, go for the throat's pretty good if you want to just like more removal. I think the feed the
Yeah.
swarm's a better one.
Yeah. I kind of liked the idea of having a couple of like board wipes or ways to control the board a little bit, because I'm gonna have a lot of upstanding mana is kind of what I predict, and so I kind of liked having like a little bit more in the instant category.
Bro, you got to put in Decree of Pain.
Decree of Pain.
It's 50 cents. It's 8 mana, but read it.
Okay, hang on. Decree of Pain. What is it? Is it a sorcery?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
It's 50 cents on card.
That's pretty, I mean, that's pretty good.
Or you can cycle it for 5 mana and everything just gets -2/-2, which gets rid of more than you think. You had the right idea with Languish. Languish was the right idea.
Yeah.
But yeah. Decree of Pain, I think, would be outstanding. Because it's more draw. I wouldn't put it past you if you needed to cut some stuff.
Okay. So there's a couple other like kind of board wipey things to look at. So first one is drown in filth is okay. That might be okay.
I feel like I've heard that. I've read that card before. Black, green. Blight Grenade. That's funny.
So, Drown in Filth is the first one on there. Gaze of Granite is kind of good. That's a board wipe. That's an pay X board wipe.
Yeah.
Those are decent. So the cards that I have in my cart right now that I was like, oh, I'm gonna order these like potentially for like a black deck someday or something like that. I am planning on picking up like an Exsanguinate, because it's like less than $4, and that is like a very quick way to close out a game with a bunch of upstanding mana.
Yep. Sure is.
And I do have a couple of the other ones. Oh, I am grabbing the Skull Prophet that you had in your master deck, because that's very clever, and I don't know why I didn't think of that. I like that, but there's a couple other like sacrifice creatures, like Demon's Disciple or different things like that.
That's what I was going to mention. So because you like Landfall a little bit, I think you should add in Cultivate and Kodama's Reach, because they're bringing in 2, and you have so many basics as well. I think you would be wise to add in 1 or both of those and substitute for like your mana dorks.
So Cultivate is. Oh wait, hang on. I saw Kodama's Reach. It's in here. It may not be in the deck list, which is just me being dumb if it is.
Yeah, but those are also because you like Landfall again. adding in an evolving wilds or terramorphic expanse are other ways to do dual landfall.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
So those are things to consider. And because you have so many basics, it doesn't hurt to like take out some basics for those.
Yeah.
And it's just for the landfall stuff because you get 2 landfalls out of them. But I would really recommend Cultivate and or Kodama's Reach just because those are 2 they're 2 landfalls and they get your basics out, and it's just more ramp, which I get, but I think
No,
those
I
are
like
still
that's kind of what I'm going for though, is like ultra ramp.
yeah.
So there's Kodama's. Did I not put Cultivate in?
I
Maybe I only have 1 Cultivate.
Yeah, you might. It's one of those cards that's just like, oh, that was the other card I wasn't a fan of, was Life's Legacy. So as an additional cost to cast this card, you have to sacrifice a creature. And you draw a card equal to the sacrifice. So late game, I get that this could be good, which is more draw.
Might be a little bit of a win harder card.
It is a win harder card, and I would much rather see another ramp card in its place. And that ramp card could also be, don't overlook Felwar Stone or Arcane Signet. Like mana rocks are going to ramp you as well. But I think Bowser said it before, like either pick mana rocks or sorceries and stick with it. And if you're going to do sorceries, then like I think because of landfalls as the sub theme, I would much rather go for those kind of things.
Yeah, I agree.
Sky Shroud Claim is another one. I don't know how much it is. It's a 4 cost, but it gets you 2 forest cards that come in untapped.
Yeah. So there's like 5 of those that are the 4 cost ones that are like Explosive Vegetation, Sky Shroud Claim. Hang on, I just had them out here just a second ago. Circuitous Root. There's Sky Shroud. Oh, there's Explosive.
How much is Guardian Project?
It's kind of expensive.
Is it? So there's another card called Burgeoning. I don't know how good it'll be in this deck. Let me look. Okay, so I don't think it'll be. What the fuck? It's $40. Are you shitting me? Never mind. Don't look at it. What the fuck? Don't look at it.
That's funny. Yes, I could see that being good though.
Well,
I see.
It's good in general, but in your deck, because you're dropping land so often, I don't think it's as good as you think it is. Because you're not drawing.
Yeah.
That's probably the downside to this deck.
I am drawing.
You are, but you're not drawing on other people's turns. You're drawing on your turn.
True.
And then you're dropping your lands. And Burgeoning likes having those lands in your hand and then dropping them.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, you convinced me.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth in your deck in particular. But you're not like doing anything on your opponent's turn to draw, which is the plus. But yeah, I really like this. I think this is a super fun deck. It's very budget friendly, but I also think it's very competitive. If you need a Garruk's Uprising, just let me know. I have like 6 copies. I can mail them or mail it to you.
I think I found one.
I like this Balagad. Any card that has 2 sides, like Balagad Recovery, is really good. Obviously, we're still in the budget side, but these dual cards, these modal cards are really fun. Very flexible. Let me see. I was also gonna do land search. I want to look in my collection, see what I had to help the cause. Black, green, land. Boom. A Rogue's Pass. Did you have Rogue's Passage in yours?
Yeah. Road passage is in there.
It's a goodie. Broker's Hideout's a good budget one. It's another like Evolving Wilds kind of thing. And I'm only recommending these just because of the landfall stuff. But Broker's Hideout's pretty good. Wow, I've got a lot of command towers. Let's see. Evolving Wilds. Oh, Exotic Orchard, if you can pick one up, that's really good. Anything that can tap for your colors is very, very good. So Exotic Orchard is very cheap.
Yeah, let me look and see. I feel like I had all of those in there. No, I didn't have Exotic Orchard.
Yeah, it's a very common card. You should be able to pick it up super easy.
Oh yeah, I'm positive I have one.
A new card came out in Outlaws. It's called Festering Gulch. It comes in, deals 1 damage to target player. It's a land desert. Comes in tapped, but you can ping somebody, and sometimes that gets rid of like a mana dork. Just trying to find some lands that'll help you out in the long run.
So there's Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Temple of the False Gods. There's Exotic Orchard.
There's a card called Haunted Mire. It's a swamp forest. It enters the battlefield tapped, but you can search it with your 3 visits and stuff because it's a forest. And you can just grab it.
There's Temple of Malady that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I think you should add that. I'm not going to recommend that. I would never do that to you.
Thank you.
I do think
also don't really like filters like Viridescent Bog. I don't really like that.
Iridescent
Where you
Bog?
have to like pay a mana. Yeah, so it's like you pay a mana, then tap, then you get 2 mana out. I don't really like that.
They're okay. I've warmed up to them. Because I'm not losing any mana for them.
Yeah, it's just mental gymnastics to keep up with.
Yeah, it's okay. Let's see. Rogue's Passage. That doesn't help you. Swamp. Oh, swamp.
Okay, so I had 5 ramp cards in here with Kodama's Reach, Nature's Claim, Farseek, 3 visits, and Nature's Lore. But so I have a Cultivate.
I'll say it. I think Temple of the False God would actually be okay in your deck. I think it'd be okay.
I'll try it. I'll try it.
I mean, if you draw it in your opening hand, which you will.
Yep.
Yeah, it's whatever. Oh, another one you could add is a card called. This is up to you. You don't have to add this. It's just 35 cents, so I know it's cheap. It's called Tranquil Thicket. It's a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. It taps for a green, but you can cycle it, which means you can just pay a green, discard it, and draw a card. So if you kind of hit a point in the game where like you just have enough lands, you can and you draw this, you can cycle it away and draw a card instead.
Yeah, that's cool.
I use this in my Boros deck. I have the white version of it because sometimes I just draw enough land that I'm like, I was
going to say, I think I have the island version of that in one of my decks.
Yeah, so Tranquil Thicket's the green version. That's definitely a pretty good option. Yeah, Viridescent Bog. I get why you wouldn't like it. I get it. Been there.
Yeah, just mental gymnastics.
It can be.
I think if I had more stuff like Temple of the False Gods and like different stuff like that, that's like it's stuff that taps for colorless, kind of like Reliquary Tower and um, whatever Rogue's Passage. I think that would make a. I think I would like it a little bit more because then it's like, oh, okay, cool. I'll just use that. But
Yeah.
I think in this case, I'm like, I don't really care as much.
And if you can, there's a card called Woodland Cemetery that is enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp or a forest. I like these cards better
Yes.
than
Yes, I do too. The checks.
yeah, it is a little more expensive, but it's not like outrageous.
It's not that bad. I have one, but it's in Mothman.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if you're just like at vintage stock or something and you
Yeah,
spot one,
I
just
can
like
see it.
yeah,
Yeah.
snag it. Let's see. I think that's all that I have that would be useful. This is I was looking through my collection.
Cool.
That's all I got, dude. I love it. I think it's super fun. But
Excellent.
I
am glad. I'm glad that it passed the sniff test. And I think it's I think it's going to be really fun. I think it's going to be
I think so too. I think
weird.
you'll be surprised how much fun you'll have with some of these budget decks and how well they'll perform.
Yeah. That's kind of, and really that's like what I wanted was like, okay, let's see how good we can make it on a budget, but I kind of knew this would also cap the power a little bit, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
So,
but it is 10:15 on my end.
yes.
So I have to go to bed.
Of course. All right. Well, thanks for looking at it with me. I think those are a lot of good ads. I'll have to update the deck list with some of our changes and that kind of stuff. I think that will be really cool. I'm excited.
Dude. Proud of you, bro. This looks great.
Of course, I'm proud of you. I'm excited to hear about hear what happens with Master. I think that'll be really cool.
Yeah, me too. I should have most of the stuff coming in hopefully tomorrow. And I'll be able to play it Thursday, and then.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really soon.
Yeah, hopefully. If not, I'll wait until I think next Thursday or Saturday. I'm going out on a date with Michelle Saturday, so I won't have my normal CDH or not CDH, my normal MTG game night. That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good. Got to take the lady out on dates.
That's right. So, anywho, dude, this is fun. I appreciated this.
Yeah, this is a blast.
All right, dude. Well,
perfect.
Godspeed,
Alrighty, well,
and I'll see you on the flippity flop.
Yeah, of course. On the hippity hop. Get it? Because it's a frog?
Got him.
Got him. All right. Have a good evening. Talk to you soon.
All right. Later, dude. Love you.
Bye.